races vanished. The history books, they tell of their defeat in 45. They all came out of the woodwork on the day the Nazi died. They say the prisoner of Spandau was a symbol of defeat. Whilst Hess remained in prison, then the fascists they would beat. So the promise of an Aryan world would never materialize. So why did they all come out of the woodwork on the day the Nazi died? The world is riddled with maggots. The maggots are getting fat. They're making a tasty meal of all the bosses and bureaucrats. They're taking over the boardrooms and they're fat and full of pride. And they all came out of the woodwork on the day the Nazi died. So if you meet with these historians, I'll tell you what to say. Tell them that the Nazis never really went away. They're out there burning houses down and peddling racist lies. And we'll never rest again until every Nazi dies.
Woke up one morning and there were soldiers. Oh, bella ciao, bella ciao, bella ciao, ciao, ciao. Woke up one morning and there were soldiers. The invasion had begun. Lend me your shoulder, we'll stand together. Oh, bella ciao, bella ciao, bella ciao, ciao, ciao. Lend me your shoulder, we'll stand together. But I feel my time has come, and if I die here for the resistance, oh, bella ciao, bella ciao, bella ciao, ciao, ciao. And if I die here for the resistance, you must lay me in my grave among the flowers upon the mountain. Oh, bella ciao, bella ciao, bella ciao, ciao, ciao. Among the flowers upon the mountain, let me rest among the brave. Someday the people will pick the flowers. Oh, bella ciao, bella ciao, bella ciao, ciao, ciao. Someday the people will pick the flowers, and they will remember my name. This is the flower of the resistance. Oh, bella ciao, bella ciao, bella ciao, ciao, ciao. This is the flower of the resistance, and those who died for liberty. This is the flower of the resistance. Oh, bella ciao, bella ciao, bella ciao, ciao, ciao. This is the flower of the resistance, and those who died for liberty. This is the flower of our resistance, and those who died for liberty.
Come all of you good workers, good news to you I'll tell of how the good old Union has come in here to dwell.
Which side are you on? Which side are you on?
My daddy was a miner and I'm a miner's son, and I'll stick with the Union till every battle's won.
Which side are you on? Which side are you on?
They say in Harlan County there are no neutrals there. You'll either be a Union man or a thug for J.H. Blair.
Which side are you on? Which side are you on?
Oh, workers, can you stand it? Oh, tell me how you can. Will you be a lousy scab or will you be a man?
Which side are you on? Which side are you on?
Don't scab for the bosses, don't listen to their lies. Us poor folks haven't got a chance unless we organize.
Which side are you on? Which side are you on? Which side are you on? Which side are you on?
I was born in the Dublin street where the lion runs do be, and the lovely English people walked all over us. And every single night when they tell, come home tight, he'd invite the neighbours out with this chorus. Come out, you black and tans, come out and fight me like a man. Show your wife how you won medals down in Flanders. Tell her how the IRA made you run like hell, from the breed.
Hello. I need to get a proper intro. That's fucking stupid.
The melt.
Anyway, how are you? Is it Wokebusters time? It's not Wokebusters time. No. It's the opposite. I'm joining the war on woke on the side of woke. Yes, we got award-winning Gerbalism to take care of. Okay, that's what's happening there. And easily amused street, yeah. Danny Dyer's inflection is great.
A bunch of fascist slags.
That is proper. Anyway. Yes, we'll be on with No Justice of the MTGs in just a second. Thank you to Michael Turned Left for a membership before gifting a membership before we got going. Much love to you. Don't forget you can of course give me money in the form of bits and subs and YouTube subscriptions and YouTube subscriptions are free. Twitch subscriptions and super chats and the memberships. Yeah. I'm on the old H2O tonight. Take my prime sub, you delightful person. Well, thank you very much. We can impoverish Jeff Bezos bit by bit. Oh. Yes, the award-winning Gerbalism today should be absolutely fucking rancid because it's got Pat McFadden on it. Hello there, Helena.
Hey Kev, how are we doing? Are you alright?
I'm very well, how are you?
Yeah, not too bad, not too bad. I've just had a lovely Indian food.
Well, I'm glad you clarified Indian as in the food, not the people. Because you English have got a history. And I'm classifying you as English now because I'm not part of the same fucking country as that shamble of shit in Australia. Fuck off. Useless. Absolutely useless.
Well, at least only an English driver won the Formula One at least.
Well, that's nice. So, yeah, in what, a German-built car, I assume?
No, it's a British car as well.
Good
McLaren.
God! Do we make cars here? What? Even one special car or whatever? No, that's ridiculous. Okay, cool. No, that's good. But anyway, the collection of Australians, Kiwis, South Africans, Barbadians, and 2 Englishmen that make up the England and Wales cricket team are a fucking joke. At the end of the game, you're like, well, at least we avoided the innings defeat, having batted first. Fucking hell.
It's really real embarrassing stuff. Really
not
embarrassing
ideal. Not ideal. Did you see my DM that I sent?
Yes, I did. Go ahead.
Okay, right. So I'll keep this as brief as is reasonable, I suppose.
No, you take your time. You take your time.
Well, no, I mean, look, if people people can go and find out details themselves and all the rest of it. But anyway, I wanted to talk to everybody about a little place that no one has ever heard of, called Druids Heath. Now, Druids Heath is an outer ring council estate in Birmingham. It is indeed the place where I grew up. Literally, the house that I grew up in is there and is about to be destroyed, or potentially about to be destroyed in the next 8 to 10 years.
Jesus.
They have a and it's indeed the house my mum lives in. But anyway, the area has a great deal of affection for me. And outside of just hang on a minute, why will that show on my fucking screen? One second, everybody. There we go. Right. Yes, the council are trying to railroad this community of about 17,000 people into essentially gentrification. It's been called the oh, for fuck's sake, regeneration is the word that they're using, right? But it's just gentrification. There will be 0 council houses built to replace any of the council houses destroyed. The number of quote-unquote affordable houses will be cut by 2/3, and again, we know what the word affordable means. It means nothing. It's not affordable.
Yeah, it's literally meaningless. Yeah.
The amount of money that's being potentially given to homeowners in the area, which make up a significant percentage, because obviously it's post Thatcher Britain. It will be about half of the amount of money needed to buy one of the new houses. So basically, they're being completely socially cleansed from the area at a time when the council can't afford to pay binmen. And now have not only have binmen on strike, but have the scabs they brought in to replace the binmen also on strike. They've lost 2 sets of binmen, for fuck's sake, right? At that time, they're prepared to spend potentially billions of pounds destroying a working class community rather than, upgrading those homes in the first place. They've also had the tower blocks that have been left to rot. They've been empty for years, and it's been cheaper to just keep them there, being graffitied and being a place where homeless people and drug users go to use them, thus making the area even less salubrious, driving down housing prices, which means, of course, the amount of money the house owners get is going to be even less, etc., etc. It's an absolute fucking disgrace. The council recently approved this regeneration project 6-6 on the council committee, with the chair breaking the tie. Every single person who voted in favour of this destruction of a working class community were Labour. So that's nice. That's always good. It's genuinely appalling, and I wish nothing but the destruction eternally of the Labour Party for trying to do this. There is potentially a judicial review. They're going to take the council to court over this, because, for a start, they haven't done any of the equalities assessments necessary for this. They don't have all the funding for this, and just generally have railroaded the local community. So, if you wanted to, I'm going to put the link into my chat for everybody if you wanted to. And you can put it in your chat as well if you wish.
Yeah, drop me the link in my DMs.
Will do. The crowdfunder for the legal challenge, because it's not cheap, as we know in this country. Justice for the poor is difficult to come by. So they're looking initially for £3,000 at least to launch the legal challenge. They do have pretty good lawyers who work with social justice causes and stuff, so it shouldn't run too expensively. But you never know. It depends how big the council want to go with it. But that is, I think, something that we can do in terms of genuine mutual aid for a working class community being shat on. Now, I don't know if Navarro would be interested in this story. Turn Left have said they'll do a thing at some point, so I'll be in touch with Curtis about that. But yeah, this is I think one of the reasons I got into politics was to protect people like this. So
100%.
If you wanted to, you can give financially to the cause.
Yeah, by all means, drop the links in chat for everybody who wants to be able to donate. Because it's just, what the fuck is Labour Party? Like, the thing is that these councils can't build new housing on new plots of land. They find it impossible to build new houses on new plots of land. Because that might actually drop the house prices of people who they actually care about, i.e. middle class homeowners. But as soon as it comes to the existing housing estates for the real kind of working class communities of these areas, those communities existing doesn't means that the house prices of all of the middle class areas around them are lower than they could be. So let's gentrify it. Let's drop the number of council houses. Let's make sure that it is all unaffordable. And that all these people get saying, well, if you increase the housing supply, that'll decrease the prices. Well, you're not actually increasing the supply, really. You're just tearing down affordable housing and replacing it with luxury housing. To, again, as you say, to socially cleanse working class communities from the area. You could just build more fucking luxury estates if you really wanted. No one would stop you, apart from NIMBYs and people like that. But they're not doing it. Instead, they're ripping up an existing community.
Indeed, indeed. And as always with gentrification, it doesn't get rid of poverty, it just scatters the poor to the wind and replaces them with middle-class bastards.
True.
Anyway, on that note, shall we go to some award-winning journalism, or did you have anything else?
No, I think that's it. Let's do some gerbalisms. We've got Pat McFadden today. We've got Helen Whately, quite literally the dumbest person in politics.
Yeah.
He is so monumentally thick. It's actually really quite funny. And we have our gal, Sarah Sultana.
Oh wow! So it's the real gambit of abilities. Love her.
A raw deal, harder to get a job, harder to pay the rent and harder to find your way. Nearly 1 million young people are not working or learning. This morning we'll ask what's gone wrong. Some of them tell us they're not the problem.
Insecure jobs, low starting salaries and the rising living costs, it's making it really hard for people around my age to be able to stand on their own 2 feet.
Well, it's Pat McFadden's job to sort it out. The Welfare Secretary is here, and later we'll be joined by his opposite number, Helen Whately from the Conservatives. And if the two of them can't fix it, other alternatives are available. Your party is one of the new political outfits trying to scoop up young voters. One of the party's founders, MP Zara Sultana, is here after the party's bumpy birth. And just in case, perish the thought, you're not quite in the mood for Christmas yet, we have a soothing taster from Matteo Bocelli to take you there.
Yeah, the bit we skip. Woo!
I mean, with good reason. Like, you know, people, there are plenty of people who like opera out there, whatever, fine. You go pay for your own time. You know, the fucking 70% of the arts budgets goes to fucking opera.
Of course it does. Yeah.
It's insane. Like, you know, it's really crazy how
posh people like it, so it gets all the money. Yeah.
Literally.
Absolute nonsense. Yeah.
On your knees, oh, hear the angel's voice.
Handsome. I've got some thirsty bitches in my chat. Yeah, he was a handsome man. And what?
Morning, and a big hello to our panel this morning. Journalist Eva Santina Evans, James Reid, the Chairman and Chief Executive of the Reid Group of Companies, and campaigner Lawrence Newport, who was one of the founders of Looking for Growth, who does what it says on the tin. Thank you all very much for being with us.
Briefcase. Total briefcase.
We were looking into this Looking for Growth thing, and you know, a bunch of their aims are fine, like cleaner streets, less crime, etc., etc. Not an issue. It's not an issue. But we looked at the Looking for Growth thing. Is the cringiest fucking thing. Now, they market themselves as being outside of the Westminster and establishment bubble. When one of the co-founders was literally someone who works at the fucking Treasury.
Oh, right. Okay,
it's like, yeah, we're totally outside of Westminster, apart from the fact that our founder was from Westminster.
Yeah, no, they're totally independent. Yeah.
You know, one of the other co-founders worked at a fucking think tank as well. Like, genuinely, it's just... It's so funny to me.
So it's another jobs project for middle-class losers.
Literally. It's called Looking for Growth, because, like, they get to use LFG as their acronym, which means it also means let's fucking go. Oh, wow.
That is a sniffing of poop.
Spicy.
I'm so happy about all of that. They're lovely people. I'm sure they're definitely worthwhile. Thank you, Nick Popkin, for resubscribing with Prime, and thank you, Wayward Historian, for gifting a sub to the great 255 AD. Much love to you all. We are now on a hype train. If we get to level 2 of the hype train, I will finger my faith in humanity because it died.
Quiet.
It died when a second English batsman chipped it straight back to fucking Nessa for no reason. Oh, I'm not even mad about it. It's fine.
Us this morning. Let's start, as we always do, with what's making the news. Well, you might remember the boss of the Unite union told us a few weeks ago how unhappy she is with Labour. The Sunday Telegraph suggests they might split away from the party. Well, the Sunday Times claims David Lammy is not quite telling the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth when it comes...
Really? David Lammy's a lying bastard? Well, I am flabbergasted.
It's crazy stuff. It's crazy stuff. You know what's also interesting too? It turns out we covered this on stream yesterday. The assisted dying bill. There was a paper. There was a memo that got leaked from internally from the Labour Party before the election, essentially saying, well, we don't want to put this in the manifesto, so what we can do is get someone to just do a private members bill, and there'll be like quasi-government support, because we don't want to have the public to vote on this. We just want it to happen via MPs through the back door, essentially. And turns out there's a whole ass fucking shadow manifesto of Labour policies.
Of course, yeah. What a surprise! Absolute.
And like they're trying. And you know what? Having a private members bill is whatever, these things happen. But they're trying to railroad it through the Lords. When if there's any justification for the Lords, it's having it scrutinise the legislations that's come through, not through a manifesto, but through a private members bill, and having it done to try and amend it to make it as best it can be from the ground up, right? That's what the Lords is for.
Yeah.
And they're actually trying to put a fucking euthanasia bill, like trying to fast track it through the Lords and stop making amendments, despite the fact that the actual process of drafting the bill in the first place has been fucking miserable.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, literally, the second that Faulkner came out and said that autistic people should have access to that route, it should have killed that bill.
Yeah,
this is clearly just a legalised murdering the useless eaters bill.
Exactly. At the same time as slashing disability benefits. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, I'm in favour in general of having safeguards in place for people who want to take away the pain of their suffering relatives and friends. Fine, absolutely. I think that's a glorious thing. But this is not that. This is fucking awful. This is like the one step down from the suicide booths on street corners type shit. Awful. Kim Ledbetter honestly should turn up to the House of Commons dressed as death. It would be appropriate.
Literally. And you know what, like, for all his faults, right, Danny Kruger said that, oh well, there's being that, like, outside groups are the ones writing the bill for and Ken Ledbetter got mad at him, saying, how dare you, this is about the blah blah etc with the will of the Commons or the parliamentarians having a debate. And turns out, yeah, no, of course advocacy groups were writing this shit because it was in the Labour Shadow Manifesto. Yeah. It's also all of it's fucking artifice.
Yeah, brilliant. We autistic people shouldn't have the right to die. No. The point isn't that you shouldn't have the right to die. Like, I'm not arguing that Roblox isn't a thing. I'm suggesting that allowing vulnerable people who don't have fatal illnesses, who don't have terminal illnesses, shouldn't really have the right to legal... It shouldn't be allowed. It shouldn't be open to them to be able to have a legal medical assisted suicide.
The state's giving credence to them being euthanized, right?
Yeah. Everyone has the right to die. Like, if you're physically able to do that to oneself, of course you can. And like, that's your fucking business, really. I would argue that you should go and seek help and assistance with whatever issue you have, but ultimately we know it happens. But in order for the state to like give warrant to people with non-terminal illnesses to have doctors essentially put them down because they're inconvenient to society, that is not acceptable.
Well, that's what's happening in Canada, basically. It's miserable. Yeah. And because, again, I've said this when we discussed it the other day, I don't have any moral opposition to having an assisted dying policy. No, none at all. And I think that there is a version of assisted dying that is something I would absolutely support, because I believe that everyone should have that kind of that liberty to be able to choose and to have access to that. But I'm very willing to be sold either way on the bill. I haven't really made my mind up, quote unquote. But the current bill in its current form is terrifying in a way that's similar to what you're getting over in Canada. And I don't trust, if there's anyone I don't trust to put this legislation through carefully and sincerely, it's the fucking Labour Party.
Yeah, no, they're awful. Yeah. When the very beginning of the bill is let's sneak it through as something else. I don't know about you, but if you want me to take you seriously about the moral kind of conundrum that is assisted dying, maybe don't start with subterfuge.
Quite.
You know?
To the stats on rape trials. The Observer's front page is a moody black and white shot of Keir Starmer with a sort of clenched fist, saying he plans to fight on. The Sunday Mirror says that nearly £10 billion of COVID fraud has been tracked down. But the tabloids take different tacks. The Mail on Sunday splashes with Meghan Markle's sick father, Thomas, asking her...
I'm sorry. This isn't news! Why is this your front page? Why is this in your paper at all? Random person you don't know. Please for a chance to speak to their daughter, who you also don't fucking know. This isn't news. World exclusive interview. Well, I got a world exclusive interview with a fucking pigeon the other day, and he said he loves stale bread. It's just as worthy as news. This is a fucking joke. The Daily Mail. Couldn't you come up with anything racist to put up? Really? Come on. Fucking idiots.
To visit him, and the BBC website's leading on our main topic of conversation today: how to get young people into work. So
make work,
let's
not
crack
shit.
on.
Not how do we help young people? How do we force them into exploitation? Yeah, there you go. Boomerism never dies.
Now, James, your business deals with employment in one of the biggest recruitment companies in the country, so you've got a very good handle on exactly what's going on. Do you think the government is making it easier or harder for young people to make a good start in life?
Well, I'm very interested to hear what Mr. McFadden has to say next, because it's certainly really...
That's a sentence no one has ever said. No one is interested in anything Pat McFadden has to say. He's the crypt keeper. He's just the most tedious human being.
Nosferatu the vampire.
True.
Challenging for young people at the moment, and it's becoming more so. It's getting harder, not easier. And there are a number of reasons for that, but one of them, I must say, was the budget last year, when taxes were put up on employees' national insurance. And that's seen a reduction in jobs in areas like hospitality, which were obviously common entry points for young people. We've also seen a collapse in graduate vacancies, but this has been going on for longer, 3 or 4 years now, and I think that's more to do with AI and new automation in the workplace. So you have a combination here of pressures on employers that are leading to fewer jobs and fewer opportunities.
It's a different pressure, but that direct cause, you think, from the government's decision to put up NI has made a difference. Lawrence, you campaign for the economy to get growing, but do you think the situation at the moment with nearly 1 million people out of work, what's that about? Is it about the pandemic? Is it about the economy struggling? What's your view?
I think I agree with James. It's actually multiple things all happening at once. There is, of course, technological changes, but it's also the case that a lot of companies are leaving WeWork.
He was like, oh, it's like a tedious make work organisation for middle class people, and like he starts talking like, yep, yeah, it is absolutely 100% Kev on the money once again.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it doesn't really even need to be said. He started off with, I agree with businessman next to me. Yeah, we know.
Actually, I was speaking earlier about the fact that, and we've mentioned a few times now, startups in this country, it's very, very good to start businesses here. It's actually quite difficult to scale businesses here, and a lot of them leave overseas, and that means when they start really expanding into jobs, maybe 100, 200 people, they're taking all those jobs overseas, and we're not seeing them here for graduates, for people here in this country. It's good to start businesses here, hard to keep them here. And
Eva, when it comes to the politics of this, do you think that the government understands the depth of feeling among younger voters about how difficult things are?
I think they do understand.
No.
But I also do think that they feel they need to impress business and they need to impress landlords more than they do young people, and that's probably because young people don't tend to vote in a large enough cohort as they should. But, you know, look at the budget. You know, we've just spoken about it twice here. The minimum wage was increased to £12.71, right? That's good news on paper. But look at the other factors that young people are facing. If a graduate is coming out of university now earning £26,000 on minimum wage, how on earth are they going to afford to live in a big city when rents are around £1,000 for a dirty room on the outskirts of a big city? When you've got all of these factors, when you look at them in the round, it's simply unaffordable.
So it's a pretty unappetizing.
So you get a leftist on, you get some fucking sense for once. Brilliant.
100%. Like literally, someone like barely left of centre, someone who's just like a not normal like centre left person, centre left, social liberal, social democrat, whatever, around that ballpark, and just under the age of 40, and they go, well, obviously it's the fact that the whole economy is fucked for everyone under the age of 40. What else did you expect? You know?
Yeah.
Appetizing cocktail of things that the government has to try and sort out, but we'll try and get to the bottom of more of it today. Thank you all for now. So what on earth is going on then? There are all these different factors that our panel have just mentioned, but the upshot, if you're between 16 and 24, there's right now more than a 1 in 10 chance that you're not up to much, not in a job, not on a course or an apprenticeship or in any kind of professional training. Nearly 1 million young people are in that position. But more than half of them say they have a health condition. 1 in 5, a problem with their mental health. But with unemployment going up in general, finding something to do or a wage to earn is far from straightforward.
Hello everyone, my name is Alfie, I'm 21, I live in London and do a tech apprenticeship.
Hi, I'm Hido, I'm 22 and I'm from Kingston.
Hello, my name's Harvey, I'm 20.
In Jamaica? I'm funny.
From Warsop, Nottinghamshire.
My name's Bella and I work as an agency SEN primary school support worker.
The number one concern surrounding young people work and benefits, I feel, is not knowing the opportunities.
I'm on minimum wage and I don't get paid during school holidays, so there are times with no income at all. Even when I worked full-time, I still needed universal credit every month to stay afloat.
I'm care experienced, and when I was on universal credit, I wanted to apply to university, but my social worker didn't even know what UCAS is.
I've done my GCSEs,
Christ.
I've done my A-levels, I've pursued higher education. It was difficult to get into jobs, and sort of entry-level jobs weren't as fulfilling as and it wasn't something that I could see myself doing in the long term. I never thought I'd be able to do like an apprenticeship and stuff, and now I'm looking into doing that.
I really want to work. That's not what the problem is. It's more just, it's disheartening applying for all these jobs and then we get no feedback, no response, and then ignored, basically.
Just some of the young people who are having a really hard...
So to explain the problems of young people, we've brought on a corpse, a literal fucking corpse. Brilliant. Thank you, BBC.
Time for all sorts of different reasons. Pat McFadden, welcome to the studio. I just want to put the number up of the number of young people who are in this situation, because this is the reality. 946,000 16 to 24-year-olds not in education or training. And that's a really pressing situation. You're announcing today more details of the government's youth guarantee, but how many actual jobs is that scheme going to provide?
So that's the number that we begin with, 946,000. That's gone up from about 2/3 of that level a few years ago. Been a very sharp rise in the last 4 years. What we're announcing today is an £800 million scheme that will get intensive advice to 900,000 people. We will get work experience or training to 300,000 of them, and ultimately we will have a subsidised job offer for the most persistent long-term youth unemployment, and that will cover 55,000 subsidised jobs.
So it's 55,000 jobs for nearly 1 million young people.
Well, that's
How on
only,
earth is that enough?
That is only the people who don't get a job through the training.
So by subsidised, it means we're going to give lots of money to private industry yet again.
Yep, and this was asked the very first time they talked about the youth guarantee scheme, and it was trailed. And they specifically said we're going to be working with the private sector. So it's essentially going to be like it was under the David Cameron administration, the worst government this country's ever had, where they literally went to ship people off to do work from Poundland when they can get a job through the job centre. And this is just for young people, right? Not the problem with David Cameron's workfare policy. The problem with David Cameron's workfare policy is it was targeted at everybody, and everybody includes demographics that might vote in higher rates. Young people, they don't vote at a high enough rate for us to care. They are merely the punching bag with which to blame all of the problems of society on, so that the people who's actually the cause of society's problems can feel like that they had nothing to do with it. And then we just blame anybody who's young and has hair which is funny colours, and then that could be the singular cause of all of the decline of the country. The latest generations, blah blah blah, etc. Won't work. Too over-educated and over-gay. Like, come on, that's the reality of this. That's the reality of this.
Now you're a nerd, so can you translate this for me? Someone asks, how do you suppose Laura Kay got hold of the Necronomicon in order to summon McFadden to the studio?
Oh, right, Necronomicon it's a book about like necromancy, right?
Oh, okay. So that makes sense. Thank you. I don't speak dweeb.
Has got a high success rate, so that won't be the sum total of it, but that is particularly directed at those who've been out of work for 18 months or more. I want this to become a Labour cause. This figure that you put up on the slide isn't just a denial of opportunity, it's a big issue of inequality around the country too, because if we were to break that figure down to geographical areas, you'd find it was worst in some of the poorest parts of the country. And
yeah, you'll find that outside of London everything's fucked. Yeah, we know. Not to say that people inside of London don't suffer as well, of course, but everything outside of London is like Alabama.
Like, I wonder whose policy platform is to blame for this. I wonder which political ideology, economic ideology, that's been groupthink amongst our entire political class for the last 46 years, which your faction of the Labour Party deliberately tried to ensure maintained its preeminence as that particular ideology, in spite of their party they was a member of running against it during election, which you decided to lose deliberately.
Yeah.
Maybe that's something to do with it.
Yeah.
And within the figure lies all sorts of other things too, which we may come on to talk about, the levels of sickness and so on. So the youth guarantee that we're announcing today is a strong offer of help to hundreds of thousands of young people in that position. And it's about more than a policy. It is saying to young people, we believe in you, we have faith in you. Looking at the clips we've just seen, they all said they wanted to work, the young people. They've been written off too readily.
Well, needing to work and wanting to work are two slightly different things, but okay.
True.
This is the government coming forward with backing and support for them.
Well, let's just go through some of the detail then. Which employers have signed up to help you with this?
Well, we've got supportive quotes today from, for example, Kier, the construction firm.
Supportive quotes is not who has signed up to this. Patrick, I'm sorry, mate. So, people saying nicey nice words is not the same as them signing a document that says I will engage in this particular activity, which I'm sure you're aware of, so I don't know why you're bringing this up. Basically, the answer, and I'll answer for him, none. Not a single company has signed up to this. This is, to use the old British expression, back of a fag packet type stuff, which basically means he's written it down on a scrap of paper and gone, is this a policy? And they're now trialling it as if it's real.
He's written it down on a napkin, like the land swaps in the Israel-Palestine agreement in 2007.
Yes, yeah.
Did you know that, Kev? Did you hear about that story?
I did, yes. Yeah, it doesn't surprise me. Now, you always sort of think, like, at the beginning stages of, like, negotiations or whatever, they probably are just sending emails back and forth or whatever. Like, it's a bit low level. But once you get to that stage, surely they've got to have proper documents. You can't be having fucking napkin diplomacy.
True. Also, as Bojack points out in chat, the whole reason why workfare didn't work last time is because businesses didn't want to take people who were forced there, who were there entirely under the pain of essentially being homeless and destitute. And so they would not care about these people because they wouldn't want to do the work, they wouldn't want to train them, and it'd be hard to train them. It'd be a waste of everyone's time.
Yeah, the lack of any motivation whatsoever does not lead to a good work environment for anybody.
Really. Exactly.
from Severn Trent, from the CBI, from the British Chambers of Commerce.
Hang on a
What
minute,
we'll
hang on a
do with-
minute. They're going to work alongside the private water companies, are they? So no. So we're not going to nationalise them so that we can keep the revenue. We're going to give even more state money to them.
Yeah.
In subsidy.
Well, considering the government considers these people to be less than shit, are they expecting the private water companies to pump these children into the river? I don't know.
True.
This is it will begin in 6 parts of the country from April: Birmingham and Solihull, Greater Manchester.
Naturally. I absolutely knew it. Of course, we're the guinea pigs for your fucking evil shenanigans. Thanks.
Central Scotland and so on. And then it will become a national programme towards the end of next year.
But how many employers do you actually have standing ready to...
0! You already know the answer. The answer is nil. Nada. Nothing.
Say, yes, we believe in this. We will be willing to offer either training or jobs or apprenticeships to young people who are eligible for this. The supportive quotes on a press release is a very different thing.
Well, we've got good partnerships with employers in retail, construction and other sectors. And in the 6 areas that I mentioned, what will happen now after the announcement is we will get the employers to say...
Jesus Christ, you couldn't get the employers on board first? You had to rush out anything for the Sunday papers to try and avoid talking about anything real?
Well, again, of course, it's just like literally every Labour policy. These were things that they could have spent all of the time that they were in opposition getting all of the feelers out, trying to understand who they could partner with and how the policy might work and finding all the details until it could get, pushed through even further with regards to going through the Commons and the Lords. But no, they spent all of their years in opposition trying to get rid of the trots. They spent all their time in opposition trying to undermine Jeremy Corbyn. They had no time for writing policy, which is why they get into government and go, well, we've got some links with some things. We've got some companies with supportive quotes for this policy that we have written on napkins. Come on.
Yeah, it literally is the thick of it, yeah. They're just making up any old shit and pumping it out there and then maybe getting some businesses on board. Like, this is not how you do public policy. This is a decade of national renewal, is it? Fucking silliness.
Sign up to offer the training. There's no reason why they shouldn't, because it's backed by government money and government investment, and ultimately on the subsidised job, the government will actually pay for 25 hours work a week at minimum wage level. We understand that taking people on is a risk, and that's why we think... Hang
on a minute. Whoa, what? So they're spending almost 2/3 of the wages of these people coming explicitly out of the pocket of the state for what is, all basically free labour for these companies. When it comes down to it, free labour.
Yeah, slave labour.
Why not just employ them in the fucking government?
Yeah.
Why not have a state-owned company that... Why? Oh my God. It's just because, of course, there's neoliberals. They're addicted to bungs to the private sector.
Yeah.
And help employers do that.
And will young people lose their benefits if they say no to opportunities that are offered to them like this?
Without a good reason, yes. Sanction is part of the system. This is an offer on one hand, but it's an expectation on the other, because the future we don't want for young people is to be sitting at home on benefits when there are other options out there, be that training, work experience, or the subsidised job.
Arbeitsmarktfrei!
I think it's fine to want to say we want to help people into jobs and fulfilling work because, there are plenty of fulfilling jobs and contributing to the broader economy and society is something people do find fulfilling, and that's great. But that's not what you're offering here, Pat. What you're offering here is workfare. What you're offering here, because again, they will lose access to welfare if they don't accept being used as cheap labour for the private sector. This is on pain of destitution. You're essentially blackmailing these people into taking these jobs.
Indeed.
Right? That's the reality of what this is. But again, offer apprenticeships, offer training, offer help. Plenty of people who are on welfare very specifically are sick of being on welfare and want to get into a job, but they don't want to risk losing their welfare. They don't know where to go, what to do, and they need help to be able to do that. And all of that help, I'd love it if the government was doing that. I'd love it if they were providing that help. I would totally agree with if you were. That's not what this is.
Yeah.
And what's a good reason to say no?
Well, look, I understand someone can have a family emergency where they can't make an appointment and so on, but if someone simply refuses to engage in it, then the conditionality, which is part of the benefit system, will apply.
The offer, though, only kicks in after.
So it literally is. Fucking Goebbels here is literally saying, sorry, Himmler. He looks like Himmler. Wrong one. Anyway, is literally saying, you will do this slave labour regardless of any other factor, or you will die.
Basically,
Simple. Yeah. Absolute fuck. It's just evil.
Right-wing bollocks. After somebody's been on benefit for 18 months. So given what you've said, that this is a moral mission, that any day somebody sitting at home doing nothing can have a sort of scarring effect, why on earth wait 18 months?
Well, that's the...
Because they've just come up with this. The reason they have to wait 18 months is because they have literally nothing in place. This isn't a policy at the minute. This is a fucking joke. This is a farce.
Very true.
Stop of the subsidised job, but people will be offered the training and other parts of the offer long before they've been out of work for 18 months.
That definitively in all cases, people will get an offer, what, straight away? If young people are on benefits,
Well,
they will
certainly
be...
long before 18 months, but the 18 months is when you've been through training, you've been through work experience, you're still not working, then anyone who is still in that position after 18 months, who's a new claimant, gets the subsidised job offer.
Would the smarter thing now not have been, as we've just heard from James Reid, not to make it more expensive for employers to hire young people? Because he's got some of the best data in the country on employment, and he says your decision to put up national insurance for employers...
So her contention is, you aren't helping private sector companies enough. Okay. I mean, the left-wing bias of the BBC is fucking crazy, isn't it?
Literally, no kind of question about the detail of whether or not it's reasonable to essentially blackmail young people into taking up jobs with essentially your mates, right? Like, if you're subsidising these jobs only for specific companies you have good working relationships with and supportive quotes from, then you're essentially getting these people to be blackmailed into working for your mates on the cheap, essentially, because they're getting it 2/3 subsidised by state money, right?
Yeah.
No qualms with any of this, but it's like, maybe you wouldn't be in this position if you didn't try to raise more money for the NHS. Like, come on.
Yeah.
Means that young people are not being taken on, and that's the problem here.
Well, we understand that taking on anyone is a risk, and we try to help with that risk in a few ways. For employers taking on someone under the age of 21, there is no employer's national insurance to pay. It's a tax break recognised in the system to encourage people to take on young people. We've also recently, my colleague Peter Kyle reached a very important agreement in the Employment Rights Bill to build in a 6-month period before unfair dismissal.
Tax on business.
Right,
You've made it more...
Oh, that thing that you went back on the manifesto. I'm sure that'll definitely come up. I'm sure she'll definitely raise that. Yeah.
He's literally going, and you know what we've done? We've also broken this manifesto commitment. Aren't you happy with us? Look how good we are at breaking our manifesto commitment. What is this kind of topsy-turvy world we're living in?
Yeah, this is ridiculous.
More expensive to hire people. We've literally just heard that from one of the most prominent recruiters in the country. Do you acknowledge that there's a trade-off here? Maybe the Chancellor's made your job harder. It's more expensive to get people into work.
No, I don't think so, because when you look at that NEETS figure of 946,000, it's been going up for 4 years. It's also international. I had a call the other day with G7 employment ministers from around the world. This is an international problem. It's partly impacted by technology, partly impacted by post-COVID factors. I don't think we fully know, which is why I've commissioned former Health Secretary Alan Milburn to really get under the bonnet of this and find out what is
King
happening.
PFI himself.
Yay. Tory stooge and all-round evil bastard is going to do a little quango-y business for us. Cool.
What was that? More bungs for the private sector? He's got bored of doing bungs for the private sector in the NHS. Now it's yet another bung for the private sector when it comes to the labour market. And again, like, whilst I'm sympathetic to arguments about post-COVID mental health problems, issues with regards to automation and what's happening with AI and job losses there, but a lot of this problems is coming from austerity.
Yep.
It's coming from the Osborneomics failing to drive the investment necessary to be able to get people good jobs, especially good graduate jobs, right? A lot of people who aren't working are graduates who haven't been provided with good work or a graduate premium because that died in the 2010s when Europe was doing austerity, you know?
I should point out for Americans, when he says under the bonnet, he doesn't mean bonnet as in like the old-timey hat. He means that it's what you would call the what's it in America?
Hood.
The hood of a car. Yeah. So it's looking at the mechanics of the system rather than a hair piece or whatever. Yeah.
With young people, inactivity and work.
Well, let's come on to that then, because the rise in the number of people on long-term sick who put that down to mental health is incredible. We can show people the numbers. It's gone up by 76% since 2019. I know you've commissioned Alan Milburn to go and look at this, but do you believe that all of those people should be off work?
I doubt they should be off work, and I know this is a sensitive issue about the increased reporting of both mental health and neurodiverse conditions. They're not the same thing. There's been a big increase. That's one figure. There are lots of other similar
stats that we could look at.
The proportion of young people not in employment, education or training reporting long-term sickness as the reason has doubled in the past 10 years.
So
and
what's that about?
Many of them cite...
Well, I wonder if there's been a massive pandemic that might have affected that rather largely.
A big mass disabling event, potentially?
Something that we know has had a significant impact on mental health. You know.
Especially given all of the other economic problems, right? Like, obviously other countries also went through COVID and they've seen upticks in youth mental health issues, but not nearly to the same degree that we have. Well, we also have the shittest society for young people in Europe as well, where we have systematically removed all of a bunch of economic opportunities that they should be having, you know?
Yeah.
That's also a thing that we have that a bunch of countries in Europe don't have, you know?
That is true.
These mental health conditions. So I think my colleague Wes Streeting has been absolutely right to commission a study into prevalence and diagnosis. But I'm asking...
Right, but he said overdiagnosis. So he's already come to the conclusion that there are too many people claiming to be mentally ill that aren't mentally ill.
With no proof.
With no proof.
No proof at all.
No proof at all, and also rather puts into perspective the idea of the independence of this particular investigation. And secondly, oh fuck, I've forgotten the point I was going to make. This is going to be the cast review for ADHD, yeah. True.
Well, that's the thing, is that it's being commissioned basically because there is already existing research showing about mental health problems in young people. But Wes Streeting and co. didn't like the answers because the answer wasn't young people suck, they're all faking it, get on your bike, right? That's what the existing literature says is not true. That actually it is true that mental health problems are going up for a whole host of reasons, and it's not just people faking it, which would be very convenient. So they're going to try and get a new report and doctor what the report says to ensure that it comes out with the, well, young people are just lazy bums.
Yeah.
So satisfy their fucking hordes of voters who want to be able to stick it to young people.
Yeah.
Asking a different question. The question I'm asking is, whatever lies behind the increased reporting, what should the policy response be from government? And candidly, I don't believe it should be an offer of benefits where you're written off, signed off, and we never speak to you again, because the long-term scarring effects of that on a young person are really serious.
Should there therefore be a higher bar for people to start claiming benefits in the first place when they have mental health issues? So you clearly think they shouldn't all be in that position. Should it be hard?
What's the point of not electing Nigel Farage at this point? Like, how are they going to scare us into being like, you have to vote for us, otherwise Nigel Farage gets in? He's already in. You're just making policy based on shit that Nigel Farage has said.
Literally,
again, 100%. Like, this wasn't even on the agenda, and now Nigel Farage comes out and says, "Oh, too many people are mentally ill, and they're faking it, and blah blah blah. We need to for real mentally ill people, we'll still have protections, but everyone else can go back to work."
And of course, by real mentally ill people, they mean fucking nobody.
Yeah, basically, yeah. You know, it's just work makes you free. That's it.
Yep.
Harder in the first place to claim a benefit for mental health?
Well, I think we need a better policy response. That's why I've asked the former Health Secretary, Alan Milburn, to look into this, because I think we should have
you can't be bothered to, you lazy cunt. Thanks.
Higher ambition than just saying to people, we can keep body and soul together by giving you benefit. What we really want to do is change the course of your life. And that's why I think this NEETs issue should be a progressive Labour cause. As I said, it's about inequality, it's about the story of people's lives, and that gets to the heart of what the welfare state should be about. We can regard it as a passive distributor of benefits, and I'm sure it can do that job, and we can have a debate about the costs. I think we should be more ambitious. It should be a platform for opportunity for those who can work. And if you're asking me, do I believe there are almost 1 million people, young people in the country, who really can't work? No, I don't, and that's why we're coming forward with the kind of policy that we've
Perfect.
announced.
He's admitting it then. He's admitting it that basically he thinks that the numbers are made up. That's it, right? No amount of information, no amount of data, no amount of peer-reviewed studies will convince him otherwise. He's just like every other fucking know-nothing idiot out of the rogues gallery of political actors in this country who just thinks that there's a mythical cohort of people, despite all of the information that we have and all of the different pieces of all the different parts of the system that they've gone through to make sure that they're not faking it. They still think they're definitely faking it because it's really convenient. Because it's really easy to just say the problems don't exist, the problem is everybody else.
Yeah.
It's not statecraft that's the problem. It's not the system that's the problem. It's not divestment in healthcare that's the problem. It is just the young people being stupid and shit and lazy bums. That's it. And they're making it up. And there is this mythical cohort that exists because if that didn't exist, then I would have to do something other than just blaming somebody else.
Exactly.
Blairite sludge. Blairite sludge is exactly what it is, Solly.
This is just they sound like conservatives because that's what they are now.
Yep, 100%, 100%.
They just this man is just Ian Duncan Smith in a Ian Duncan Smith outfit. That's it.
Today.
Some people also, they look at the system and think it's not right. And one of the problems here is that some individuals in some circumstances can claim more from the taxpayer if they're not well enough to work rather than if they're just out there looking for a job. Do you think sometimes people make a...
Yeah, so her two takeaways from all of this are you aren't helping the private sector enough, and actually there are too many lazy bums. This is ridiculous. This is just right-wing shite. It's slow.
It's the manufacturing consent machine.
It really is. Yeah.
Can you feel your consent being Can you feel your consent being manufactured, chat?
Decision, perhaps, to claim ill health to increase their income.
I think incentives matter, and that's why we've legislated to change them. We legislated to narrow the gap between what people got for being standard unemployment and the extra health element in universal credit.
But shouldn't you close that gap?
Well,
because right now, as you've just said, people on health-related benefits can get more money if you're on the sick than if you're looking for the job and on the dole.
Not on the sick. You are sick, right? Again, real kind of coded language to make people mistrust what they're being told about the level of sickness.
This is fucking disgusting. Disgusting propaganda.
It's the 2010s all over again. Just benefit street, constantly on loop.
It really is.
I'm getting deja vu from being like 23. It's just miserable.
Yeah. Thank you to Fosmos for gifting a membership on the Twitches. And yes, don't forget you can help us both out in the form of bits and subs and memberships and subscriptions and blah, 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 all of that.
Also, it's worth pointing out as well. It's worth pointing out as well that when it comes to actual spending on welfare, like welfare for working age people, we are like half in terms of how much we spend than most other countries in Europe. Like, we're way down the league tables. We have a really miserly welfare state. In 12 out of the last 14 years, universal credit has not been enough to live on. Not enough to basically be able to live on. That's studies done by the FT. It is not a generous welfare state in the slightest. People look at a giant welfare bill, of which half of it is the pension, and think that somehow means that we're a soft touch, when in reality we are incredibly draconian, far more so than most other countries in Europe.
Yeah.
Oversimplify it because it's a complicated system.
More money for being sick has been part of the system for a long time, but we are changing this, and this is important because I think it's under-noticed. Under the Tory system we inherited, people got double the money for declaring themselves unfit for work. We've cut that difference in half, not only by cutting the...
Wow, we've been even worse on benefits than the Tories.
Also, by declaring themselves sick, Obviously, that's only for 5 days, right? You can only self-declare as sick for 5 days. Then you need a medical professional signing them off.
Yeah.
Because, of course, what he's implying here is that all of these medical professionals are all fucking lying.
Yeah.
That they're all lying all shit at their job.
Extra health element, but by increasing for the first time in a long time the rate for standard unemployment. The system that we inherited, in effect, offered people a choice between penury or being declared unfit for work.
Whereas now it's penury or work as a slave for Poundland.
Yep.
Which is way better.
That is a bad set of choices to offer people. So on 2 counts, deal with the incentives through the legislation that we passed, but also deal with the support, because the other part of the system we inherited was once people were declared unfit for work, they were often never contacted again.
But the problem you've got with all of this, Pat McFadden, is you could argue to close that gap further, or you could argue to make other changes to the benefit system, but you tried to do that as a party last year, and your backbenchers got so angry you ditched the reforms. So would you, as the new-ish Welfare Secretary, rule out having another go at limiting some levels of benefit payments?
No, I don't rule things out, but I think you're wrong to conclude that no change happened. I accept July was a bumpy period.
You had to ditch £6 billion of savings that the Chancellor wanted to get, and that's what coloured the whole budget.
But it's a mistake to conclude from that no change happened. This change in the balance between the health part and the standard part of universal credit was the biggest change to universal credit since it was introduced about a decade ago. In addition, the employment support is really important here, because too many sick people, long-term sick people, have been written off with no contact. We are investing substantial amounts in reaching out to people now, again, like the young people, and saying, we're not going to write you off, we're going to help you into work. We've got a Connect to Work programme, which has got £1 billion in the next few years, and more through Pathways to Work, to reach out to those people and say, we won't write you off. So it's about incentives and support.
But you're also, and I can hear you saying to your party...
He's saying it's about incentives and support. And again, I am not saying that those incentives and supports are good things to do, are bad things. I think all of these things are fine. Perfectly reasonable policy, and I support those kind of things to help people who want help, right? Who are desperate for the help when they've been cast aside for so long. But to say that immediately after having said, well, we're looking at the people who are getting money for being sick and we've cut it in half. We're taking money away from sick people. And I'm just like, how can you talk about it being about incentives when you're literally offering people the stick straight up front in terms of policy? And it's been taken as read here by both him and by Laura Koonsberg that somehow taking this money away from the disabled in the vote earlier this year was a good thing. Yeah. No, it was fucking horrendous. Hundreds of thousands of disabled people were going to be put into poverty. 50,000 fucking children, you know?
Yeah.
It's like a fucking party that bangs on so much about how, well, you know, cutting child poverty is at the heart of the Labour Party's DNA. And I'm like, bitch, you were trying to put tens of thousands of kids in poverty deliberately for no fucking reason.
Yeah. Well, because it was the adults in the room thing to do. That's just what you do in government, isn't it? Destroy poor people. Fucking evil. Yeah, how long until they have the G4S workhouses open? I wonder.
Literally.
Do not think that I am done looking at the welfare budget. You are not ruling out further cuts to some benefit payments in the years to come.
No, we're not, because I think it's a mistake to conclude, as I said, that after July that means no reform is happening.
And you've explained that.
It is being reformed. I've asked Alan Milburn to do this work. Stephen Timms is looking at PIP. This is a system which we should always look at. And if I zoom out for a minute, what I think's happened with this system is it was introduced many years ago. It had the incentives we've spoken about, and it's now dealing with, if not a different set of conditions, then certainly a different balance of those conditions being reported. And to ask if it's fit for purpose, and that is exactly the right thing to do.
Is it fit for purpose?
I think it needs changed.
So
I think it needs changed.
I want to just for a second contemplate, though, this whole picture of where young people are in this, whether it's welfare or anything else. It is harder to pay the rent as a young person. It's harder to find a job. You might find it harder to be able to pay off your student debts. There's a huge generational change between what people who were in their 20s 10 years ago, 20 years ago. It's completely different. And when you look at the polling, the Greens are scooping up. Reform are doing incredibly well with some younger voters.
This is such a lie that the fucking media are going to go with. The Reform Party aren't doing well with young people, actually.
Well, things what she specifically said was Reform UK are doing well with some younger voters, or extraordinarily well with some younger voters. I'm like, what you're saying is they're not doing well with all of them then.
Yeah.
Like, if you have to specifically say, well, if we take this very specific subset of this entire demographic, and look how much of these people are voting Reform, and I'm just like, well, surely that means you can't make that case for the wider cohort because you're having to take a very specific part to talk about why Reform are doing well. When actually Reform are not doing well with young people. They're at like 15% or some shit, you know?
Yeah.
Less than half of what they're polling at everybody, at the electorate at large.
Yeah.
Do you, as a government, think that you've got a handle on this gap here? What are you really offering younger voters?
Look, I think young people haven't had the attention that they deserve. I think there is something in that. That's why I think this youth guarantee package is so important, because these numbers have been up for years and no one did anything about it. I also think on the housing front, it's become more difficult. That's why we've got such an ambitious target to build more houses. A lot of young people are renting. We legislated to improve renters' rights too. So I think across the piece, young people in this country need a better deal. I think they need a sense that...
So basically nothing.
They need a sense, right? He's about to say that a sense of something. And I'm like, no material policy. No discussion of the actual material things that need to change for young people, because they don't want to do rent controls. They don't want to do proper industrial strategy to create jobs for these people, to actually incentivize job creation by having proper investments into state-owned manufacturing or state-owned enterprises to be able to provide them with work. They don't want to increase the welfare state, and they don't want to have any way of being able to ensure that they're able to leave university without being saddled with tens of thousands of pounds of debt.
Yeah, so literally...
They have nothing.
Yeah, they have nothing. They're offering you absolutely nothing.
Whilst also increasing their taxes to be able to bump up the state pension an even higher rate than all of the other welfare payments, predicted incomes combined. Despite the fact that those payments are going down, they're just being subscribed to by more people. The triple lock is increasing higher than wages and inflation combined.
Yeah.
The government that's in office believes in them, backs them, and we want to do that. And that's why we're bringing forward this package today.
And if you look at the polling, they don't even remotely seem to have that sense. And one of your own ministers, Josh Simons, wrote online something slightly rude about life for the 20s, 30s and 40s. He said, I can vouch, I've got 2 kids, a third on the way. It's impossible to have kids and save for a home. And he goes on to say something rude about what it's really like. If that's one of your own ministers saying that life for the under 40s and even the under 50s in this country is dreadful, haven't you got a big problem?
Look, I think there's a point that young people in the fields that we talked about, in housing and employment, have not had a good enough deal. And that's why we should come forward with these policies that we are. So I think there is a point here. Young people do need a better deal. They need a government that believes in them. And that's why I think this is an important progressive cause, to say to people, we will back you, we'll back you with opportunities. We do not want to see you living out your life on benefits.
I just want to ask you briefly about another issue.
It's so stupid. He thinks he's going to win a single younger person round. Like, the idea that this is a good thing for young people is strictly a message for boomers. That's all
literally,
this is benefit
exactly.
for. No young person looks at this and thinks of it as anything other than just more punishment for young people.
Yeah, it's boomer bait. It's Cameronite boomer bait. That's literally all that it is, Yeah,
absolutely.
And again, if you want a political party that actually speaks for the interests of young people, that talks about actual kind of sea change in politics that would really change the lot for a lot of young people in life by actually intervening more via the state with things like rent controls, which is one of the biggest costs, which stops people from being able to leave their parents' house, because now people are living in their parents' house well into their 30s because this country is a fucking state. It's a basket case, right? We actually want policy to do that. You can vote for the Green Party.
Yes, I approve this message.
Many viewers might have seen an independent review into carers allowance found recently that your department, the Department for Work and Pensions, had made many failures over a number of years. A senior official, a man called Neil Cowling, wrote on an internal website that part of the problem was down to carers' mistakes. Now, Ed Davies said that was disgusting. It's been suggested that was victim blaming. I just wonder, have you spoken to him or other people in your team and asked them to apologise, or what would you make?
Well, if you give the full quote, Ed Davies said, "This is disgusting and the only way to fix it is to rejoin the European Union." So let's have it right, shall we?
Of that.
What he said is not the position of the department. This was a long-standing problem that had been ignored by the last government, like many other things that we're having to deal with. We commissioned Liz Sace to do...
Oh, yeah, and as pointed out in chat, Pat McFadden is the Vice Chair of Labour Friends of Israel as well.
Oh, yes, of course, yeah.
In case you were wondering about his wider political evil.
Report on this. She came forward with recommendations, and let me be clear on behalf of the department. We support her report. We're going to fix this. We're going to fix the issues that were wrong with payments to carers. That's the position of the department as I set out when she reported, and it's also the position as the Permanent Secretary set out to the Public Accounts Committee just a few days ago.
Okay, Pat McFadden, Welfare Secretary, thank you very much, Steve.
Absolutely horrible, disgusting human being.
Just, again, it's just Nosferatu the vampire. It literally is.
Yeah, why do they put him out in front of the cameras? Like, you must have a better salesperson than this. That was fucking atrocious.
Thing is, Lily, thank you for the bits. Like, people don't realise how expensive being disabled is. Also, saying sick instead of disabled is very deliberate. Being disabled right now is quite scary. Thing is, she didn't even just say sick. She said being on the sick, right? It wasn't an implication they were sick and not disabled. It's the implication they were fucking faking it as well. Yeah. Like, we're on layers upon layers of levels of dehumanization here. But thank you for the bits. Appreciate it.
True. Yes, what was I going to say? Something. Oh, hang on. I wanted to respond to somebody in chat and I can't. Anyway, it doesn't matter.
Thank you for coming and see us on a Sunday morning. As ever, remember, we want to know what you think. We've covered lots of issues there with Pat McFadden. You can send us an email, kunsberg@bbc.co.uk, or if you're social media inclined, you can use the hashtag BBC Laura Kay. And the WhatsApp number is there for you too, 08000 282 161. Ava, very interesting. We covered lots of issues there with Pat McFadden about the generation gap and benefit payments. Clear, though, he's not ruling out having another go at making welfare cuts.
I also have to say it did sound a little bit workhouse, didn't it? You know, you are going to get into the workplace or you're not going to have any money at all. You know, it just sounds a little bit Victorian to me. And, you know, you look around the country, you look at the various strikes that are ongoing.
It's not just a little bit Victorian, it's absolutely Victorian. It's the deserving and undeserving poor nonsense rehashed from 150 years ago.
Yeah. Well, I mean, just rehashed from 15 years ago, to be fair, as we were saying. I mean, am I saying that David Cameron is worse than Victoria? Yes, I am. Yes, I am. I think he's worse than that.
At the moment, you know, I'll point to Birmingham where there is a bin strike that's been going on for nearly a year or just over a year now, you know, and that is because £8,500 was going to be taken away from these workers. When you look at an example like that, if you're a young person, would you believe that work pays? Would you see yourself, I mean, why would you bother if the government aren't going to pay for your time to be there in the first place? And then you look at expending...
Yeah, the rise of the rats. To get another viral story from Birmingham this week of a rat that was scurrying around Birmingham City's train station, or main train station, New Street, on the platform outside of the food shop, which, you know, is super healthy. I'm really glad that that's taking place. Cool.
You know, we're coming up to Christmas this year. We've just had the Black Friday and Cyber Monday sales, or, you know, whatever that American import that we have. Yeah, the frenzies, yes. You know, when those figures come out, I think we are going to be astounded at how little money people have spent over that weekend. And it's because people don't have any cash in their account. Why would you bother going to work if it doesn't feel like it pays?
James, when you heard Pat McFadden talk about this scheme, let's just concentrate on the scheme for a second. Do you think what the government's going to do will make a big...
we don't even really need to comment on what Ava said, just true.
Yeah, again.
Just correct.
No notes.
Difference. He said 50,000 paid jobs in the end and promises of advice and work experience in the interim.
I think it's really positive that this is getting some attention because it really needs to. And work is so important to people, as you know, for their personal dignity and purpose in life. So I think it really should be.
Their purpose in life is to make money for me. Honestly, the capitalists need to go away. That's all I can. That's the terms of service radar.
Honestly,
beeping then.
Based, I no notes here either.
Yeah, just they are genuinely evil monsters.
Become a progressive campaign, as he sort of said. I think it's a beginning. What worries me is, someone who's been neat, as it's described, for 18 months could be pretty demoralised. And I think it would be much better if those early interventions came a lot sooner, so young people progressed into doing something straight away.
And do companies want to take on young people, I suppose?
Well, it's a good question.
If they're free, yes. Yeah. If it's slave labour, yes, they're happy to do that.
Of course,
I mean, you do need employer goodwill, and a lot of employers themselves are struggling.
Well, what the employers want is they want money.
Yeah.
But they want money, and when the government is saying we will literally cut 2/3 off your wage bill by giving you people who are there on essentially being blackmailed to be there, and saying you could employ somebody on a full salary, or you can employ somebody on 1/3 of the salary. I'm like, okay, well that's more profit, isn't it?
Yeah. Is this Marxist capitalism? I think so, Solly. Yeah.
It's not an issue. It's not an issue. I mean, somebody did mention BHM in chat the other day, and I was like, going back to the free exchange of ideas that I had with him, and looking back, and I was just right about literally everything. Yeah. I was just right about literally everything.
At the moment, and finding the business is really tough. So you need to engage employers, and I think it's important that they're really part of this process. Yes, they do, though. I mean, I remember years ago when we started in Hackney, our New Deal programme in 1998, I was interviewed by John Humphreys of this parish on the radio, and he said, well, what's the point? There are no jobs in Hackney. And I remember saying to him, we're just going to ask employers to give a young person an opportunity like we were once given, as an older person. And because everyone gave each of us an opportunity. There was someone out there who did that. And we went out into Hackney, and within 2 weeks, we had 1,000 vacancies in a really difficult area. So if there's a real engagement in the community and everyone wants to help young people, we can really make a difference. And this is so important. I mean, there's a large number of people who are neat at the moment, but there's also a whole lot of other young people coming up behind them. And they must not progress into that situation. We must find a better way.
Lawrence, do you think that the government has got
Have you done school checks, by the way?
I couldn't find a school for the one on the right. Was that James Reed is the name of him, right? Yeah, James A. Reed. He is...
No, the guy on the right, his accent screams private school.
James Reed attended Skate Cliff Prep School, the later St Paul's School, Selective Independent Day School,
yep,
and then Christchurch, Oxford, with one guess.
PPE?
It was indeed PPE.
Oh,
Oxford.
for fuck's sake, even the business cunt did PPE. I've told you, anyone who does PPE needs to be locked up. They for the good of the country. I'm sorry, I'm sure there'll be innocent people swept up in that, but for the good of everyone, anyone who applies to do PPE at Oxbridge needs to be locked away. They're going to destroy the country. It's one of the main predictors of you being a meltoid.
Handle on the scale of this, because Pat McFadden was sort of hinting there is something else going on. There's a sort of different mixture of conditions and all the reasons that you guys were talking about at the beginning of the programme.
I don't think they've got a handle on this. It's good to hear that they're talking about doing something on this. I think young people in this country have been systematically, essentially ignored. I certainly think last election there wasn't anything really on the table for them. I think they have been kind of forgotten, thought that things will just work out for them. And we are now in a pretty devastating situation. You see nearly 1 million young people out of work. And like you say, like when we're looking at 18 months or more, it's not just demoralising. That's often people who've spent in hundreds of applications, received nothing back. At the moment, between 2022 and 2024, the number of scam job adverts has increased by about 130%. People are now applying to jobs, sometimes in their hundreds, and finding that these things don't exist at all. They're just used for data or otherwise. This is like an actual scandal. And young people are facing this at the same time as rents because we're not building homes where they need to be. We haven't got the energy infrastructure, so their energy bills are super high. It's actually also what's causing a problem in industry. The whole thing is circular because we are not sorting the foundational problems in this country.
What then, though, Eva, about the issue of the really steep rise of claims due to mental health that young people are reporting? Do you think sometimes that is overdone and people are choosing to give that explanation?
I mean, I'd have pretty poor mental health if I was looking at that salary. If I was looking at living with my parents for the next 10 years with no chance of moving out, yeah, I would have pretty poor mental health. But I also do think we need to remember that we came out of a pandemic and we should really be on a war footing with this. We should think of, like, you know, in the same way that the Attlee government thought after World War II, we should think, how do we get this country productive again? How do we get this country moving? We have to spend and invest in these people. You know, you've got children who are not socialised. You've got university students who never spoke to their peers. That is going to have an effect on a child's psychological, you know, how they've grown up. It's going to have an effect on their well-being. And we should look at them as investments to pour money into, rather than you sort of, you know, throw them to the wayside and say, well, just get onto the working ladder and get on with it.
But James, what do you see as that change, you know, coming into contact with people looking for work?
So Iva's made two sensible interjections and just been ignored. Just move on. Don't ask any follow-up. Don't bother interrogating. Just move on. We've got these two business wankers to talk to.
Well, she's not said the pre-prescribed opinions of the British state.
Yeah.
I mean, it'd be good at a policy level, as you were sort of pushing, to see everything aligned, you know, so that you weren't putting taxes up on jobs at the same time as trying to get young people back into
it. Wasn't too into your suggestion that it was partly the government's fault.
Well, no, I mean, the horses have got to be pulling in the same direction, would be a starting point. And we've got to get the economy going, because it's small and medium-sized companies that create jobs and give opportunities to people. And that is vitally important, because if that doesn't happen, you know, we're going to have a larger and larger group. Because unemployment is rising. It's 5% now nationally, but it's 15% for young people.
And I remember last time, roughly this time last year, I think you came on and you said, what we're seeing in the labour market looks kind of worrying, and I predict that things are going to take a turn for the worse. Now, sadly, you were proven right about that.
I wish I'd been wrong, but that was correct. Yes.
What are you seeing now?
Well, we're seeing a continuing job drought. You know, there's a scarcity of jobs.
A job drought?
Yeah, I'd call it a jobs drought. I mean, it's been going on for 39 months in a row. Last period, 40th, I think it flattened out. So we might have hit the bottom. I don't know. But our data is showing a continuing decline in vacancies, 16% down in November year on year. So this is a continuing problem. It's a big issue.
Lawrence, do you think that sounds about right to you? I mean, you're working...
Yeah. I mean, you know, we talk to people up and down the country looking for...
What is the point of this guy? He follows the other business guy and just agrees with him and says nothing of worth.
Literally. I mean, it's almost like the person who does the make work campaigning group who says, well, we're outside the establishment apart from the fact that one of us is from the Treasury. And it's just essentially doing it to get donations from the private sector and random people who honestly haven't got a fucking clue what they're doing. Maybe he isn't actually an intellectual powerhouse and doesn't know what the fuck he's talking about.
Yeah, job fandango, fuck's sake.
The job fandango.
Yeah, it's someone said he's his hype man. Yeah, a little bit. Yeah.
And one of the things we keep hearing, particularly from people in their early 20s, is I'm applying to jobs all over the place. I can't seem to get anything. Ones that are there, about half of them seem to be fake to me. I don't hear back. I'm just giving them data and information. But we know also from the stats, you know, it's about 140 people applying for every single graduate place. Like, it's not that people don't want to work. There are, of course, some who are, you know, using the system in whatever way they are to actually get by. But there are a lot of people who are actually trying to contribute to society and, for instance, want to build companies, want to build things. But it is incredibly expensive in Britain. We haven't built the infrastructure for years. We have not allowed Britain to build, and because of that, everything is more expensive.
And do you think that the welfare system as it currently is?
We haven't let them build. That's an interesting.
I mean, they've not been building themselves. They've been fucking land banking.
Yeah,
although
exactly. That's what I mean.
Obviously, we do have a NIMBY problem as well, though. To be fair, that is also true.
Set up does incentivise people to not take part.
I think it's that, but it's also the case that our actual work environment incentivises that. If it is the case, which it is, it's easy, or it's a good place to build companies here, but to flee overseas, essentially, once they become larger, that is a place where we see jobs going. We will keep seeing this. It'll be the continued pattern until we fix the foundational problems of this country.
Ava, just finally, this is now a very, very political conversation, this conversation about welfare and particularly mental health. You know, the government's doing various reviews, but it's a regular source of clashes in politics right now. Do you think that the government is at political risk if they don't deal with this?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, look at the Labour backbenchers who've been clamouring around mental health. You know, why on earth were the promises about mental health facilities and availability that Labour made before they went into the election? Where are those promises? Why haven't they materialised? And to your point about national insurance contributions, you know, why don't we look at, instead of small, medium businesses, why don't we look at big businesses like Tesco, for example, who turned over £2 billion in profit last year? They can contribute. And why don't you put that money back into youth mental health services, and then maybe we might gain some productivity.
Well, we talked a lot about the budget last year.
Wow, what's that? Someone talk about actually investing in people and think about dealing with these problems that actually exist, rather than trying to find ways of, you know, fucking twisting the data so we can pretend it doesn't exist. Are actual pragmatic solutions. Incredible. Almost like the adults in the room were always the fucking left wing anyway.
Yeah.
All along.
Last week. Was it last week? Who knows when it was? It's all going by in a bit of a blur as we head towards the end of the year. We'll be back with you in a few minutes. Thank you all three of you for now. So let's stick then with welfare, that political conversation. The Conservatives presided over a huge rise in the amount we spend as a country on pensions and benefits. Before they lost the election, they said they'd start to find billions in savings. But now, Kemi Badenoch says they'd cut.
Do I need to say it, chap? Do I need to do the joke?
Even more, much more off the benefits budget. The Conservatives now say they're aiming to save £23 billion from the bill, and they reckon only UK nationals should be eligible for most welfare payments, and they say that fewer people should get subsidised mobility cars. Well, Helen Whately's the Shadow Work and Pensions
Again,
MP,
right? Like,
here.
it's just so funny to me. It's just funny to me. Like, whilst I'm sure there are plenty of people who will be sympathetic to them saying take welfare away from people who aren't UK nationals, right? But the fucking this obsession with mobility, it's just the same as their obsession with Chagos. It's the same as their obsession with every single one of their Twitter discourse things, because they all live on Twitter and none of them live in the real world. And that's what they wonder why they like fucking tanking in the polls.
Yeah.
Like, you don't say anything, you don't have any points to make that are relevant to the worlds of real individuals, you know?
True.
Here with us. Good morning. Thank you for coming in. Now, today you're saying something specific, that you'd want people with ADHD, mild depression or anxiety to stop getting mobility cars. That's where you can get subsidised vehicles. How many people would that affect?
Well, one of the problems actually with Motability is there isn't the transparency there should be about who is actually getting those cars, because it's a scheme that the government funds but doesn't have control over. But one of the reasons why we're talking about this is because Motability exemplifies what has gone wrong with the welfare system. Motability was set up so that people with severe disabilities should be able to get themselves around, but it's a scheme that has expanded hugely over the years. Last year, £3 billion was spent on it.
I mean, when she says expanded in terms of the number of people who are eligible or the amount of money that's spent on it, well, yeah, that's true. It hasn't expanded in scope, though. The reality is Motability is only available for people who qualify for the higher rate mobility payment of PIP. And it's just more people qualify for that because more people are disabled. Because at the time when a lot of people, the last kind of generations of people who worked a lot of manual work in this country, were coming to the age where they were likely to become disabled because of the work that they were doing, this party, the party of the woman sitting in front of us right now, was slashing money out of the NHS, the longest sustained drop in NHS spending as a percentage of GDP in British history, right? Yeah. And so a bunch of people who were in their early to late 50s, who had worked in construction or had worked in manual labour, whatever it was, worked in warehouses, had become disabled by the back-breaking tedium that is these very difficult and very strenuous jobs, and the government fucking didn't bother giving them healthcare. So now that they're permanently disabled for the rest of their lives, and they need help to be able to deal with that. And your response, of course, is to try and say that, oh, well, that's because it's a lie, when of course it's not.
Well, not just that, but of course, because it's the baby boomer generation, they're a larger overall percentage cohort of the population than at any
True.
time in British history. And so overwhelmingly, you're going to have a larger amount of those people who are more age dependent on, are more likely to become disabled because of their age. And like you say, the backbreaking labour and so on, that are going to be a larger number than they've ever been in British history. That's just statistically inevitable, frankly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Also, when she says, "Oh well, we don't know the numbers," well, maybe fucking find out. If you don't know the numbers, how do you know this is even the problem that you're claiming it is?
And the amount spent on it went up by 10%. But actually, we haven't got a 10% increase in people's disabilities in the last year. So we're saying something like Motability should go back to what it is intended for, helping people with severe disabilities, not, for instance, whether it's tennis elbow, acne, or, as just said, ADHD, as reasons for getting a free Motability.
I don't think there's a single person who got a free Motability card because of tennis elbow.
Nope. Literally, again, what they say is, this is one of the disabilities that they have listed.
Yeah.
But obviously people can have multiple disabilities.
Yeah.
And so the reality is, again, to be able to qualify for Motability, you need to be able to show that you qualify for the higher rate mobility payment, which means you have to essentially show severe, high levels of lack of mobility to be able to get that, which you don't get from tennis elbow.
It's the same fucking shit of these COVID denier wankers who are like, oh, this person also had this other disease. Yes, comorbidity exists. It's COVID
Right,
what
absolutely.
killed them, though, for fuck's sake.
Absolutely.
So someone
Again,
might have
like-
tennis elbow, but they also have lost both of their legs. Or something.
Indeed, and again, 100%. That's exactly what it is. Again, there is a very specific questionnaire and routine. What's the word I'm looking for? Examination you have to go through from the people who do these PIP assessments to be able to qualify for higher rate mobility, and you will not pass that test if you have acne, if it's just acne or poor mental health or whatever.
Yeah.
Card funded by the taxpayer. And I should say, and this is one of the things that's become so unfair about our benefit system, you've got people who are paying taxes, funding these cards, who can't even afford a car themselves to see somebody else getting one. That's very unfair.
But you can't tell us how many people would be affected, though, by...
Interestingly, a good link there. Helen Whiteley claimed £3,250 a month of taxpayers' money in rent.
Always, every fucking time, I go mad at people being on the take that they claim that they are, when they are literally the one who's on the take.
Yeah, £3,250 a month on rent. But yeah, apparently it's people who are desperately disabled who need any help whatsoever that are the problem. God, these people are scum. Like, in a way, like, I'm still angry at the Tories because of the destruction of the country that they did over the last 14 years, or the previous 14 years. But you can kind of sit back and relax a little bit when you listen to one of their dickheads talking about this, because you know it's never going to happen, because they're not going to be in government. So it's not an issue. Whatever policy they come up with is meaningless, basically. Which means you can kind of have a laugh at it as a meme, really.
by the change you want to make.
Well, as I say, actually, this is part of the bigger reforms that we want to do for the welfare system. And one of the things that we have said is that overall, we shouldn't be having people getting sickness benefits for things like anxiety, milder mental health conditions, and aspects of neurodiversity, different thing like ADHD.
You are a fucking evil monster.
Yeah, they are. They're just evil. Like, I'm sorry, conservatism as a political philosophy is the political wing of sociopathy.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
Yeah.
It's sociopathy. It's the only possible justification that I can have for being somebody who's this evil.
Yeah.
Like, who just thinks that, all of the different things that make it, especially things like autism, where people who have very kind of severe autistic conditions means it's very difficult for them to live lots of kind of fulfilling lives, and they need state help. It's obvious that they do, and they're just like, well, this polls well, and we want to blame literally anybody other than the billionaires and the petrochemical companies that fund our political party, so we're going to attack people who literally cannot fight back because they don't have the money nor the time, and they're such a small percentage of the population as a tiny minority that no one will give a shit if we attack them. It's evil. It's fundamentally evil.
ADHD. And there's research being done which says that you could save around £7 billion to £9 billion from doing this. This is a big area where actually it's the right thing to do as well, and it's very important. We don't want to see the government writing people off.
But let's just stick with this policy, because you are putting it forward today, and the facts and the numbers do matter, of course. In October, you said millions are getting benefits for anxiety and ADHD along with a free Motability car. Now, you said millions. We've looked at the numbers. There are 1.1 million, not millions of people getting benefits for those kinds of conditions. And in total, there are 190,000 people with mental health conditions who are eligible for a car. Isn't it important, while we have this debate, that you get your facts absolutely straight?
Receipts, bitch.
What's funny, right, is even when trying to do a debunk here, even when trying to debunk what Helen Whately said, the framing from Laura Kuenssberg was people who have mental health conditions who qualify for Motability. She didn't even try and debunk the main claim here, which is that they're getting Motability because of that mental health complaint, which in probably 95% of cases they aren't. I mean, there are cases where mental health can affect your mobility to the point at which you end up having to claim higher mobility, but that's very unlikely. I think in most cases it won't be. But the reality is that they are claiming this because they are eligible through other means. She's taking two cohorts and saying, well, they have this and they have this, and implying that it's the same, even in the debunk, right? Yeah. So even Laura Kuenssberg, who's attempting to hold a shadow minister's feet to the fire, is even failing on that, in that basic front. I mean, it shows you just how evil Helen Whately is, that she's on like multiple different layers of dishonesty here.
Yeah.
So yes, and I know, and I was making a general point about the problem that we have.
Yeah, and you were making a wrong point.
Yes.
Based on unbelievably stupid inflated numbers.
With very large numbers of people getting benefits, as I said, for things that actually people would be better off in work. And as we know, the evidence tells
that I
us
made it the
that
fuck
actually
up.
often with a milder mental health problem or something neurodiversity like ADHD, you can be working and you would be better off in work.
But in terms of the impression that you're giving politically, if you say millions of people are getting a free car and actually it's less than 200,000, isn't that pretty misleading?
So I think what I'm expressing is the frustration that people feel with our welfare system at the moment and with the way the country is, where you've got people who are working as hard as they can, whether they're working double shifts, they're trying to pay the bills,
hear that from
and they're just seeing their
week.
taxes going up, and they don't feel that the government has a grip on this, and they are right about that.
We hear that from our viewers every week. That frustration is obviously very real, but as a senior politician, isn't it important also to have this debate in a way where
their frustration is very real. Their frustration is very real. What about the actual facts? Like, the important thing is the actual fact of the matter. Like, can we actually talk in terms of facts rather than just essentially doing, like, it was during the 2010s it became a big thing where they would do vox pops of members of the public on newspapers, go, what do members of the public feel? And then they would, you know, kind of choreograph and curate the kind of responses that they would televise in their vox pop segment. They don't even do that anymore. They just talk about what the public say, as if that's actual facts rather than reporting the facts themselves.
Yeah. Basically, yes.
you're sure of your numbers rather than saying something that's completely misleading.
Well, actually, I think, and if you listen to what I've said about this over many months, I come at it with a thoughtful approach. So I feel...
Except, of course, the vastly inflated numbers and the ridiculous rhetoric.
Like, it's just... I fucking hate this. I hate her so much.
She is genuinely irritating, yeah. She's thick and evil. I don't know that she has any redeeming qualities.
Feel and I hear and I know the anger that people are feeling with our system, but actually when I was first an MP I turned up campaigning because I wanted to have better mental health care. I campaigned because I saw how bad the health...
And then you were a government minister in a government that systematically did nothing for mental health care in this country. So, I mean, I don't care what you initially went into politics for. You have become the corrupt thing standing in the way. Simple.
Healthcare was in the NHS for people with serious mental illness, things like schizophrenia, psychosis, and I campaigned to have the NHS do a better job there. And one of the things that's happened over the years, and it's a good thing, is that there's been a reduced stigma about mental health and people talking about their mental health. But what we've also seen is this huge surge in people getting sickness benefits. And that is not the right thing for those individuals or, in fact, for the country.
And how many people do you think should lose entitlement to those sickness benefits for the reasons you...
All of them. Literally, she thinks all of them.
Yeah, put them all on put them on the fucking skip in the wood chipper, throw them in the fucking Atlantic, fucking in the English Channel that can drown with all of the rest of the asylum seekers, as far as Helen Whately cares.
Yeah,
you've outlined.
Look, so what I'm doing in opposition, I have two things. One is to hold the government to the account for things they're getting wrong, and they're getting a lot wrong, and the other is to work out what I think we would do differently after the next election, when things will have moved on. And actually, well, I say things would have moved on, but will they? Because one of the things we see, and we heard it from Pat McFadden again, is them talking about the fact that they want to reform the welfare system, but being completely unable to do so because the Labour backbenchers don't back that.
Well, you say you'd save 23 billion from the welfare bill. That's now your new ambition.
And again,
one of the headline promises in that is...
And that's the thing, right, is that they're trying to look tough on welfare, and all that means is that rather than doing policy that they might be able to win votes with, all they're doing is having a race to the bottom at who can be the most draconian, because nothing will be good enough for the opposition or the media or Reform UK or whatever.
Yeah.
They'll just get nothing out of it. They'll get no political capital because everyone else will think they're not going far enough. And on top of that, they'll be causing huge amounts of social harm by driving loads of vulnerable people into poverty.
Yeah.
Restricting benefits only to UK nationals. So if someone has lived here legally for years, they've paid taxes for years, and say they got hurt in an accident that was no fault of their own, they wouldn't get any benefit.
So we're saying that if somebody...
Even then, they're of no fault of their own. It doesn't matter whether there's a fucking fault of their own or anything. It was an accident. Like, it's the deserving and undeserving poor shit. It's disgusting. Stop it. This fucking thing that, well, there are some people who should get benefits, but everyone else can die mentality that is just, this is award-winning journalism. Are you fucking kidding me? Jesus wept.
Apparently so.
Is in a situation where they've got what's called indefinite leave to remain or limited leave to remain. They're not a British national. No, they shouldn't be entitled to benefits through our welfare system.
Even if they've been here for years and paid tax here?
There will be people who, if they've been here for many years and been contributing to the system for many years, may be eligible to become British citizens. That's a different situation.
But if they're not citizens, no benefits.
For people who have not contributed and not in that position, no, we simply can't be a cash machine for the world. And we have got to get a grip of this.
And how much money do you think that would save?
She deals with this in a sensitive way. We can't be a cash machine for the world. Genius. Honest to God. This is... Every time they seem to reach a new low of depravity.
It's grotesque, isn't it?
So there's some estimates out there say it might be around £7 billion. Is that what you would expect from making that change?
Yeah, so we expect that would be in the region again of about £7 billion if you look across universal credit and the sickness benefits system. So that is one of the areas where we see there would be savings, as well as we need a more fundamental look at our sickness benefit system, because it just simply isn't working for the country. It was intended to be a safety net, and our welfare system isn't a safety net now. In fact, and if you look at...
You made it not a safety net, you cunt. What are you talking about? The Tories destroyed it. Yeah, it's not a safety net, and you want to make it even less of a safety net.
Yeah, again, it's worth pointing out, again, people have been pointing out in chat, and it's really important to say this, that the welfare bill more broadly has been stagnant as a percentage of GDP for 20 years, basically. Stagnant. It's never really increased. It's stuck at around about 20% for the last 20 years or so. And with every increase in the pension provision that's given out in the state pension, there would have had to have been a requisite cut in every other kind of welfare payment. The squeezing of the welfare bill has been done purely on the grounds of the fact to make sure that there is more room for the triple lock.
Yeah.
Some of the analysis that's been done since the budget, there are many people who are just saying, I would be better off on benefits. Why bother to work when I could be on benefits?
Well, actually, that was the position in the
Why bother to work? Is that a proper sentence? I'm not sure. Thank you, Eric, who says she is not a journalist, she is a right-wing propagandist. Yeah, I mean, pretty much. And thank you for the resubscription. 19 months. God bless.
Policy that was brought in by your government over many years. We've just had Pat McFadden explaining how people can get, in some circumstances, more by being on sickness benefits than being on employment benefits while they look for a work. That was your policy. That was your decisions over the years.
I mean, I won't for a moment suggest that we got everything right in government. We made mistakes. I recognise that. Goodness, we lost the election. People were angry with us. But if we look back at our record, from 2010 through to the pandemic, we brought down the levels of unemployment. We brought down the levels of people on benefits. And we got more people into work and saved money on that. Then from the pandemic onwards, that bill started rising, particularly people going on to sickness benefits for mental health. We worked on reforms to do. I actually in government worked on the reform to the sick note, fit notes that GPs give out. I think that's a very flawed part of the way the system is working or isn't working at the moment. Labour came in. They cancelled all that. They binned all that. And then here we are nearly a year and a half later, and they're talking about setting off a review and a plan. They are just not treating this with the urgency that's needed.
In terms of your party's position, you say you need a more fundamental look at this whole thing.
Yeah.
Sorry. Just mocking her accent.
No, that's fair. That's fair.
Kemi Badenoch said you could argue that welfare spending is unchristian. What's Christian about not helping people in need because of the country they were born in?
Well, Jesus said, that you do unto the least of my people is woke, and therefore you shouldn't do it. That's what he said. It's in the Bible. You have to read between the lines, but it's there.
Woke. Again, Tory Jesus comes back and says, "I'm not feeding you 500 loaves and fishes, you fucking scroungers. Catch the fucking fish yourself. Go leaven some bread, you lazy fucks. On the bread lines with you."
Exactly. He was going to heal the leper, but he would rather incentivise the leper to find work and deal with the...
Pull itself up by its bootstraps.
Exactly. Like, do you even really have proper leprosy? No, I don't think so. You're a scrounger. Fuck off.
Leprosy faker.
Exactly.
I don't think that's what Kemi is saying there.
Well,
Kemi,
it's important to hear her words. She said the Christian tradition is about communities and families and charity, not about compulsory taxation in order to pay welfare. Some people might think absolutely she's completely correct there. Other people, like the former Archbishop of Canterbury, said the idea that welfare is unchristian is eccentric beyond belief.
What would he know? What would he know?
What's funny, right? What's funny, right? Is that he's literally like the big Don, right? He's the main man of like the Church of England, and Kemi Badenoch is a fucking lapsed Catholic, if I remember correctly. Like, she's not religious anymore. She doesn't have faith in God. She's not a Christian anymore.
Yeah. Well, could be argued she never really was, but whatever.
I mean, I don't think most people who have Christianity really ever really believed in it. Like, because I mean, you can tell people who really do believe in it, but having gone through crisis of faith and coming out from the other side, like, you can tell that's true belief. But plenty of people,
I definitely did. When I was a kid, me and Jesus were fucking friends, and then I read the Bible and I was like, this is fucking whack. This is rubbish. No.
I think that's misquoting her from what she said. And she's not saying there shouldn't be a welfare system. I mean, and I talked to Kemi about this clearly. And the principles that she brings us, I bring to this, is, well, we want a system that backs people who are doing the right thing, who are taking personal responsibility. If you can earn money to pay for yourself and your family, well, of course you should do that. We shouldn't be taxing you so it no longer becomes worthwhile to you.
I mean, literally, Jesus said, pay unto Caesar that which is Caesar's. Like, he literally said, pay your fucking taxes. Now, to be fair, he probably said that because he didn't want the Romans to kill him. I mean, good luck with that one, Jesus. But he literally did that. He literally said that. Like, come on. You can't pretend to be conservative and Christian. You're not following the words of Jesus of Nazareth. You're just not.
Even pay your own way. We want a system that is fair. It feels very unfair to people at the moment when they can see somebody who's got a new car through the benefit system, when they can't even afford to get a car themselves because their taxes are so high. We should have a welfare system.
Yeah, that's the reason they can't afford to get a car. Yeah, cool. Could it be the capitalists aren't paying people enough? Is that a thing you've ever considered?
No. They're the job creators. They're the wealth creators. They're the business brains. They're driving economic growth. Kev, how dare you be so anti-business?
Yeah.
Which is a safety net, not an alternative to working for those who can work.
Just briefly, Reform has now had its first defection from a member of the House of Lords, a life peer, Malcolm Offord. Why can't you keep people in your party?
And as I said a moment ago...
Why can't you stop the rats deserting your sinking ship?
I know people are angry and frustrated with some of the things that happened when we were in government, particularly through the pandemic and
Hang on, it's one of your own
since.
people choosing to buddy up with Nigel Farage.
I will hear, and I will come to it. I mean, the thing I would say is what Reform is offering to the country is very different from what Kemi Badenoch's Conservative Party is.
It's not really that different, actually. It's literally just they're not the Tories. It's the right-wing version of Keir Starmer, in a sense, that they're basically...
The Tories are completely pointless at this point because the Labour Party are the Tories.
Yeah.
Reform UK are like the nutcase wing of the Tories. And
bunch of fascist slags.
There's no one else left.
Yeah, basically.
Is offering. We recognise the seriousness of the problems that the country has, and we're doing the work to come up with an alternative plan to fix them. We've talked about how we will make savings, 47 billion from public spending, so that we can reduce the deficit, cut people's taxes and grow the economy. We have a plan. Nigel Farage does not. On welfare, he said he'll lift the 2-child cap, spend more on welfare. That is not the answer to the country. We are working on the right answers for the country.
Okay, Helen, wait.
Wow, the one thing that Nigel Farage said that's like decent and is like that this is evil and bad and wrong and terrible. I wonder why we're sinking in the polls.
Literally.
Brilliant. Honestly, I will enjoy your demise. Politically, of course.
Waitley, Shadow Work and Pension Secretary, thanks very much indeed for coming in and being with us.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much indeed.
True.
Well, there is plainly an appetite right now for politicians who are prepared to do things differently. How differently? Well, that's another question. How about falling out with each other before it even has a party name and trying to chuck out some of its own new members too? Here is a quick look back at the start of the new group on the left, Your Party.
It's news that's only recently broken by Zara Sultana. She said Jeremy Corbyn and I will co-lead the founding of a new party.
It's finally here. Or is it?
There were...
Why would you get on a second-rate Navarra host? Come on now. Poor form.
Immediately reports in the Times that Jeremy Corbyn was bewildered by the timing of this announcement. He's now saying we're in discussions. It sounds like he wants to lead it.
Then Zara Sultana launched a membership drive, which allies of Jeremy Corbyn said was unauthorised.
Feeling sidelined, Zara Sultana lashing out, accusing...
Definitely, it's definitely good when one of your MPs boycotts the first day of your founding conference. That screams well-organised thing and not People's Front of Judea at all.
Yep, quite so.
Corbyn of overseeing a sexist boys' club.
They are now publicly fighting over money.
I'm sorry for the confusion in getting to this point.
Over politics.
Witch hunts on the eve of conference, smears.
That was the funniest thing. That having been kicked out of the party on fake trot hunting, he started his party with actual trot hunting. We're going after the actually Trotskyist SWP members. Look, he went, no. I'm the honest politician. I'm going to do actual trot hunting.
Trot hunting,
Fuck
true.
yes.
I mean, that is what's ironic about the actual trot hunting was just we're going to expel people from the Labour Party who are just like millennials who are slightly to the left of like Ed Miliband.
Yeah, vaguely actual Labour people.
Yeah.
Difficult to overstate just how far the infighting has gone.
Well, your party had their first big conference last weekend and they did decide to be led by a committee, not by one MP, and to stick with calling themselves...
And I'm sure that will work out very well. Apparently she didn't actually boycott. Okay, whatever. Fine, okay. She was outside picketing it briefly or whatever, protesting it. Okay.
your party. Well, one of the founders, Zara Sultana, is here. She's joined us on a few occasions, first as a Labour MP, then as an independent MP, but now representing your party. Thank you for coming in.
Thanks for having me.
You said there have been hiccups on the journey to establishing your party, but that puts it pretty mildly. I mean, we've seen rows about your launching it on your own, allegations about it being a sexist boys' club, and a couple of the MPs have withdrawn their support. Who's to blame for that mess?
Well, neither me or Jeremy have ever set up a new party before. We've never designed its structures. And so this hasn't been an easy process. But this is a new party that is a socialist party that, like you said, is being led by its members. We've got over 55,000 members. And that tells me that there is an appetite for a party that is going to be supporting trade unions, that is fighting for people's lives to be made materially better, that is going to go out to the country and campaign, be on picket lines and fight for a vision of this country that is drastically different to what we've been given so far.
But when the setting up of it has been so messy, it might not give people watching very much confidence that, frankly, you're going to be an impressive organisation, that you really know what you're doing. So I think it is important. I wonder who or what do you think is responsible for the mistakes that have happened?
Well, the issues that we have dealt with in the past have been about member democracy. At our conference, we put those questions to a vote, and our members have decided and voted on collective leadership, allowing dual membership, empowering our branches so they can go out and organise.
Yeah, that was the nonsense of getting rid of the SWP people on the basis, well, it's a different political party, and you can't be a member. They don't stand in elections. Like, you're not... There isn't going to be an SWP candidate up against a Your Party candidate.
And they're not registered with the Electoral Commission.
Yeah, it's nonsense, you know. Like, if you just don't want that faction, you have to be honest about that. Don't pretend you're a party for all socialists, because you're clearly not.
Ultimately, the past few months have been really difficult, but we are moving forward. We are here to build a party that is going to have a vision of a country that redistributes wealth, that talks about nationalisation, that looks at questions of inequality and deals with them from the root and branch.
But how do people know who to listen to? Should they listen to Jeremy Corbyn, who's there on the stage, or should they listen to you, or should they listen to a committee of membership who are providing leadership? You know, political parties traditionally have worked when people know who the leader is. They're the boss. They're the one that communicates with the public.
Of course, but we're doing things very differently. We have a collective leadership which will elect a parliamentary spokesperson, so there will be someone for the media.
This is such cack. Honestly, this is not going to work. We're going to elect a parliamentary spokesperson, and that person will be taken with as much seriousness as the do not fucking dry wash label.
Well, it's the sad thing, right? There's clearly loads of people on the ground putting loads of effort into this, and it's just... Again, well, maybe we'll see where it ends.
It's just wank. Like, don't get me wrong, I think you can have a collective leadership model or whatever. I think there's a way of doing that isn't completely bound to fail. But it's like, oh, we're going to elect a parliamentary spokesperson. Out of what, the 4 MPs that you have? What's the point? It's just silly.
For the public to look at.
This is some old school. Look, I mean, I do the joke about the People's Front of Judea, but I think it works as a piece of analysis. It's a joke that's 50 fucking years old, and it still works because this is some old school leftist bullshit, getting obsessed about the minutiae of different fucking party structures and blah blah blah. Look, it's an old world form of leftism that needs to die.
I think the problem here as well is that people wanted to vote for collective leadership, essentially to take the power out of the hands of people like Carrie Murphy. They wanted to take the hands out of the people at the top who were rigging things during the steering committee process or whatever it was. And to do that, what they're basically saying is that we'll have enough people in charge who can ensure that no one person can take the reins. But if you actually had a party, like a platform that was beholden to members kind of constitutionally, internally, it wouldn't matter because then no one can undermine it because members have all the power, you know, which I think would be fine even if you had a main leader. That's the problem I have.
Yeah.
To relay what the politics is.
You or Jeremy Corbyn?
Well, there'll be an election. It will be done democratically, as has been the process thus far. A collective leadership is obviously not the way other traditional parties work. But
apparently My Left Eye rated in earlier. Thank you, My Left Eye. Everyone going to follow My Left Eye immediately.
the traditional parties are top-down machines that treat their members as volunteers who actually don't really care about the public in terms of making a difference to
But
their
are you
lives.
going to run to be that parliamentary spokesperson?
I am going to put my name forward if that's what the members want, of course.
And if Jeremy Corbyn does as well?
Well, then there'll be an election or a process to actually address that, and it will be the committee that will choose their parliamentary spokesperson.
One party on the left that has been enjoying great recent success, who have elected a new single leader, of course, is the Greens with Zach Polanski. They have been doing incredibly well in the polls. They've been growing.
Yeah, biatch. Love it.
Their membership. He's even invited you to defect to the Green Party. What would your message be to a voter who looks at them and thinks they're doing well, they're vibrant, they're growing, I'm going to go there, as opposed to joining a party that is finding it quite hard to agree with itself?
I think it's important that voters have a choice and that they are able to look at the left of politics, given the fact that the Labour Party has left the scene, and see multiple parties that are speaking to their interests. Obviously,
that is a big change going forward, assuming that this party, or your party, remains for, let's say, 10, 20 years, whatever. To have genuine leftist alternatives in a way that we haven't had, basically, for a very long time. When was the last time the Labour Party were actually left-wing? The 80s, I guess?
Like AC3.
Yeah. So, before I was born, before most people watching were born. To go from no option to then 2 options, and if you're transphobic, 3 options, Workers' Party, etc. Or maybe some of the independent people. Like, there are actual options in the country now in a way that there has never been in my lifetime. And that's, I think, a genuine piece of progress, if nothing else. That's something to be optimistic about.
Oh, exactly. And as I said to Zach on politics, like podcast friend, like the more voices that you have providing an alternative to the neoliberal mainstream, and the more people that get platforms to say it, the better, you know.
Yeah.
the Green Party have a new leader who's doing really well, and I get on really well with Zach Polanski.
Would you defect?
I think there has to be conversations around electoral alliances. We have to look at the next election where the goal has to be to stop Nigel Farage from getting the keys to Downing Street. But fundamentally, we are different parties. We are a socialist party. We're a party that is going to represent the working class, that isn't shy about talking about the material issues affecting workers.
In what way is that not the description of the Green Party now?
I mean, they're mostly well-minded liberals with bright ideas, Kev. That's the line.
Yeah, honestly, and it's right. Okay, I like Zara Sultana, so what I'm about to say isn't me trying to shit on her or anything like that. But what I do find galling is the idea that she's like the one true socialist, and yet 18 months ago she was elected on a ticket of continuing genocide, because she was a Labour Party member of Parliament. She was elected as such, and yet she now wants to talk to me about who the real true socialists are. I'm sorry, that no. Have some self-awareness and realise that maybe you're not the a flawless socialist in the room, because that's not true.
Yeah.
Then talk about your vision. You said at the party conference you want to nationalise the whole economy. What would that mean for a small business or a farm or a
Say a company making sausages, for instance.
hairdresser or a coffee shop? What does that mean?
The status quo in this country is broken. We are the second most unequal country in the OECD, second to the US. We have rampant inequality, so things have to fundamentally change. And when I talk about nationalising our economy, I'm talking about the commanding...
The thing is, I know she opposed Israel, but she stood as a Labour Party Member of Parliament under the leadership of Keir Starmer, a man who actively came out and said that Israel had the right to cut off electricity and water to the people of Palestine. She does have that right, etc. So, she personally opposed Israel, but she stood on a Labour Party ticket. And she didn't leave the party out of disgust. She was kicked out. For doing the right thing, to be fair, but she was kicked out.
Again, it's literally, obviously, perfectly reasonable to say, well, I was, using the Labour Party ticket to try and usurp them politically by standing, winning, and then going, nah, I'm not an MP anymore, lol, gotcha. Which, you know what? Fair enough. You want to play a political game and, you use the Labour Party platform to get elected to then hoodwink them at the end. But then what you can't do is then try and undermine other people who've also had different routes into getting to where they are right now.
Yeah, look, I'm not... you don't get to claim to be like the real socialist. You're not an unproblematic leftist. You know?
Heights of our economy. I'm talking about the utilities, energy, rail, buses, telecoms, mail, which are wildly popular with the public. But we also have to look at other forms of democratic ownership in our economy. That means workers' cooperatives, that means community land trusts, that means public banking, that means a national welfare or a wealth fund that workers and our communities control.
So do you mean that a corner shop or a hairdresser is going to be run by a workers' committee? I'm just trying to understand what
actually,
this would actually mean.
If you look at polling, the British public actually support a system where workers make the decisions in their workplaces rather than a CEO. So when you've got a coffee shop and you've got a small workplace, a democratic form of ownership of that is a workers' cooperative, where workers own the shares in that company, they have better terms and conditions, the profits are shared amongst the workers, and that is a form of democratic ownership that does very well across the world, including in the UK in many cases.
And would that be something that businesses had to become? Would that be mandatory?
Well, these are conversations that we should have about what forms of ownership we should have in our economy, and right now we don't have very many democratic forms of ownership.
And again, a lot of these things that she's saying are excellent points. Excellent points about cooperative ownership, new worker-led democracy, cooperatization, etc., etc. But rather than talking about whether these policies are good, whether these models of ownership are good, we're talking about in the context of how you would get to an entirely nationalized economy. And that's why I think that statements like what she made at the party are ill-advised, because you get Laura Koonsberg going, well, what's this political reality going to look like, rather than discussing the actual merits of the policy itself.
Yeah, it's jumping the gun. You're getting ahead of yourself. That's why, like, the kind of Polanskiist approach to socialism, the kind of slightly more incremental style, is not really ultimately where I want to get to. That's not an end goal for me.
No,
that's a step in the right direction. That's the most feasible next step that can be taken. And that's as far as I think we're going to get. I'm a very pessimistic socialist. I don't think for a second we'll get to socialism in my lifetime. Even if I live to be the ripe old age of 100, I don't think we're going to get there. But what we can do is move the Overton window, certainly, and move the general trajectory of economics, I think, around the world, into a better place for the next generation to then take on.
100%.
I think that's about the best we can realistically achieve. And so putting the end goal before, putting the cart before the horse is, like you say, ill-advised.
Agreed.
We look across Latin America, you've got workers' cooperatives, you've got community land trusts.
Hey, hello, Zakup. Everyone go and follow Zakup immediately.
Do it. That's an order.
Even though they're Australian, and we don't talk about Australia right now.
You've got all of these different forms. We need to have conversations about how we can democratise our economy, but also
mandatory might be an option.
It has to be something that we have a conversation about. Obviously, the party does not have policies yet, but it's important that we articulate a different vision of society and an economy, and actually that extends not just to corporations and businesses and our public services. It's also questions around the monarchy. When you've got a royal family with a sovereign grant that will increase to £132 million next year, and you've got Prince Andrew, who's had £12 million of taxpayers' money to defend his legal costs, a close friend of Jeffrey Epstein, we need to have a referendum on the monarchy and talk about democracy.
Oh, Epstein posting on Maine. Fuck yes.
I mean, go for it. Literally. People should not stop talking about that shit.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Oh, there's a lot 100%. More to come out, I'm sure. Yeah.
Like, doesn't matter which political party you're in, doesn't matter which side, there are people in there who've had their fingers in the Jeffrey Epstein pie.
Yes.
In society as well.
And would you campaign to abolish the monarchy?
Absolutely. I'm a Republican.
Let's talk then about foreign policy, because we've talked to you before in the studio about your view of foreign policy. Some of the statements that you've made about Russia and Ukraine have provoked some raised eyebrows, I'll say. What did you mean when you said President Zelensky isn't a friend of the working class?
When we look at legislation that has passed through Ukraine that introduces zero-hour contracts, that stops trade unions from having vetoes, that really slashes workers' terms and conditions, that is what I mean when I say President Zelensky isn't a friend of the working class. That is to say that despite the war that's happening in Ukraine, we shouldn't have to sacrifice workers. And it's important that we recognise what's happening in Ukraine is an illegal invasion. It is indefensible, but we have to look at what is happening and care.
Oh, we've got a badass in chat. Oh, hello. No, we are to fight the two Zio-fascist parties with world government back. And if Kevin Helena and the Green Party members keep taking the piss out of your party and your party don't succeed, the Green Party up against them.
I mean, is anything that we've said about your party untrue?
Yeah, like, my point isn't your party bad. My point is they like the left look bad by being incompetent, and that there are not unproblematic elements within them.
Well, certainly the people at the top, the people that the ringleaders do. Because there are plenty, again, the people on the ground organising around the country who are actually putting in the work. So you have their well, essentially would become constituency, your party groupings are doing the work on the ground that clearly a bunch of the people at the top of the party don't seem to value or seem to care about.
Yeah.
Keir Starmer leading the European hawks into an endless war where the interest of Ukrainian people and the Russian people to end the war isn't there. It's simply about arms manufacturers increasing their profits, where this government just wants to sell even more long-range missiles rather than negotiations being the focus and ending this war.
Isn't the interest of the Ukrainian people and Western leaders who are leading allies of the Ukrainian government trying to stop Russian bombs and missiles from falling on their head?
The emphasis.
Okay, but like, okay, there was always going to need to be a difficult conversation at some point, so we might as well go there. The Ukrainian government cannot win this war. I'm not sure Russia can either. We're in a very much a kind of Western Front World War I situation where they're just destroying one another for no tangible benefit. The Ukrainian government are going to have to accept, unfortunately, and I hate to say this, they are going to have to give up some territory because they can't take it back. That's just the realpolitik of it. You're not getting that land back. It's not going to happen.
With the irony, of course, as well, is actually if they'd been armed properly at the start rather than
they
the
could have
piecemeal
won.
nonsense, we wouldn't be in this position.
But the West didn't want to help Ukraine. They wanted to hurt Russia, which is exactly what I said at the time. And so ultimately, it's somewhat pointless. However much the Ukrainian people might want to continue to fight, it's pointless to... You're essentially just enabling self-destructive behaviour at that point. We have to protect the Ukrainian people and their land as much as we can, but realistically there's going to have to be concessions and there has to be some deal put into place, because this has been rumbling on for years now, and this isn't getting better for anybody. This is a fucking catastrophe. And of course, what unfortunately we'll see is once that peace deal is signed, all of a sudden the West isn't so looking forward to giving money to Ukraine to rebuild the nation that they helped destroy.
Yep, almost certainly. Well, no. What they actually have, there was a secret meeting plan about the future for Ukraine, and they wanted to make it some kind of free market investment zone. It's like, yeah, of course you want the corporations to take a pound of flesh, don't you?
Yeah.
Emphasis has not been on negotiations. The emphasis has not been on diplomacy. When Keir Starmer has led meetings, it has been about selling more weapons and elongating this war. As a country, as a democracy, we need to be pushing diplomacy and negotiations, because every war has a beginning, but every war must end too, and that is only through diplomacy and negotiations. The question is always how...
Except, of course, that the war is never meant to be ended. It is meant to be ongoing forever and ever. Whether you're fighting East Asia or Eurasia, the war must never, ever cease.
how many people have to die before we get to that
Do you
point.
think Vladimir Putin is remotely interested in ending the war?
He has to be. He has to end this war, and it's about putting pressure, and this government already has put sanctions on Russia. Russia has already been excluded and boycotted from sports competitions, from music competitions. It's about exerting pressure on Russia to meet at the negotiation table, but it can't be with the government.
Yeah, that was the fascinating element from the, I don't know if you saw the Eurovision nonsense this week, where several countries pulled out, and that's, you know, good for them, genuinely. But the European broadcasting twats, the people who run the thing, saying we don't do politics. Okay, so Russia and Belarus are going to be allowed back in then, are they? Because that seemed like a very political decision that was made. Again, one I support, but why are Israel okay but Russia aren't? Please do tell me that.
Government that is actually just focused and prioritising arms sales.
Okay, Zara Sultana, founder of your party, or one of the founders, is that how we have to do? Co-founder of your party. Thank you very much indeed for coming to talk about your new project with us in the studio this morning. Thank you. Now then,
Well, that was okay. It's good to have, you know, genuinely progressive policies being talked about on national platforms.
Yeah, and despite the like the fact they were having a conversation that seemed a little, you know, myopic because of comments made previously, the actual things that she said in response were really cogent and really the kind of stuff that you want to be talking about, like co-ops and like different models of ownership and supporting trade unions.
That's how you move the Overton window, is by making those conversations not taboo anymore. By having them, you bring it out into the open.
Also, I want to say, so thank you, Marl Barks, for 499. Although you've super chatted to say that you guys have been terribly negative, and I'm like, well, I appreciate the money. I'm assuming you mean negative about your party. You know, I mean, like, well, I would say we're being realistic, unfortunately.
Yeah, look, I don't want them to fail. I think the people largely are have their hearts in the right places, especially now that Adnan Hussein's fucked off. Get wrecked, you fucking fool. So I don't want them to fail. It's just that I don't see how it can't fail given the current situation. It's realism. It's a prediction of a thing rather than me trying to be negative about them. I want them to succeed. I want loads of left parties to be, you know, in theory. Although I suppose under first past the post that doesn't really help. But you know, having better leftist exposure is good.
100%.
Has been a very busy morning. Lots to discuss, and the fortunes of young people, what the government's trying to do about it, and those new political groupings in different places who are trying to scoop up. Ava, you have spent a lot of time covering this new movement on the left. Is it credible what they're up to?
I just want to say I was a bit confused, but maybe Zara can answer that. I thought the spokesperson role wasn't open to MPs. I thought that was going to be a party
Well, she said there was going to be a parliamentary spokesperson, and she'll run for it, and maybe Jeremy Corbyn will too. So
Yeah, there has to be a parliamentary spokesperson, surely. Because what? Who would be?
Well, they'd
Prime
have a
Minister?
leader in the House of Commons, right?
Yeah, exactly. Like, I mean, in theory, if they, let's say they win an election, well, they're going to have 4 prime ministers. How is any of that going to work? I don't know.
Well, again, like what is interesting though, I think it does kind of.
Jeremy Beadle would have been
throw
more
out some
positive.
interesting stuff about how we talk about prime ministers, and then we talk about them like they're a president, when of course they aren't. They are just the minister from the party who's been selected to be the person leading the government, which would be the case in a parliamentary grouping which had no political leader internally. But it's treated like a presidential system because they campaign on personalities.
And literally, the original phrase "prime minister" was a joke. It was meant to take the piss out of that person. It was like, you're not just the minister; you're the prime minister. Like, it was a joke. It was a burn, an 18th century burn. No, 19th century burn. Yeah, but anyway, and then became official, you know, parlance. Thank you, James Holmes, who says Jeremy Beadle would have been more positive.
You just assaulted me.
You are disgraceful. Get out.
Maybe that's a news story we've landed on in the studio this morning.
On the point about nationalise everything, which I think has been contested in the media, I do think there is an interesting cog in that, which is, you know, you look at a company like John Lewis, which does give back its profits to its workers. And, you know, I used to be a delivery driver from them, and, you know, the £1,000 or so that I used to get in April was a godsend for me. That would be a wonderful thing for companies to look at and take on board. Is it credible? At this moment in time, it looks difficult to describe it as credible, but people do need an alternative. And I think, you know, when I was sitting in the hall and listening to the sort of things people were talking about, like nationalising water, energy, those are actually ideas that a lot of...
What did they call them before Prime Minister? Well, technically, it's still called this. It's the First Lord of the Exchequer. Which is literally, if you look at number 10 Downing Street, the door, the brass kind of plaque thing out, you know, around the postbox, around the letterbox, literally says First Lord of the Exchequer. So that's still an official title as well. It's just everyone calls them Prime Minister because that's less weird.
Liberal Democrat voters can get involved in. So if they could sort out those arguments, then yes, it could be credible.
Still a big if, though, isn't it? I mean, Lawrence, do you look at political new outfits popping up? I mean, maybe even your own new campaigning group. There do seem to be new entrants that are all a bit different into our kind of political market, if you want.
Yeah, I mean, it's a pretty damning indictment of the current parties and the current situation that, I mean, our movement exists to argue for economic growth. This should be something which should be pretty standard and a standard desire of governments. But they actually don't want to attempt...
Every motherfucking party banging on about growth. Literally, you cannot move for parties who are obsessed with economic growth.
This is the briefcase version of we never talk about immigration.
It really is, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah. Like, it's the only thing any fucker ever talks about. No one ever... Like, these melters... These absolute melts never talk about anything in terms of the economics that aren't about growth. It's never about quality of life or wage increases or anything like that. It's always just growth. Everything has to be growth.
Tempting but not going nearly far enough in actually pursuing the policies to invest in energy, make it easier to hire people and build companies and keep companies here.
And James, we are short of time, but I know also you and your family business...
Oh yeah, we're short of time, so we're going to have a fucking opera singer on. Every week they do this, we're running out of time. We've got to talk to some random fucking actor for no reason.
have for many, many decades tried to be working in this, with government and in the economy, trying to help people. And I know with condolences that you lost your father. Many people might have seen that in the news. I know you lost your father in the last week. I just wonder, with the benefit of all of your years of experience, how do you see this moment for this country?
I think it's a really important moment. There could be a major disruption coming. I mean, the rise of what I'd call the ABLOC vote, anyone but Labour or Conservative, is very apparent, and people can choose between lots of emerging options now. And it's really unclear where the electorate will settle. So there's a lot of challenger brands that are trying to get our attention. So I think we're headed for, I mean, I don't want to disturb your viewers, but a big disruption on a Sunday morning. and I think that's coming because you have a combination of economic change that's very rapid, that's challenging jobs, at the same time as you have a political change. And so I think there's a lot coming up that we will have to navigate very carefully.
Okay, well, we are going to try and cheer people up at the end of the programme because we have had some quite heavy lifting this morning. Thank you hugely to my trio at the desk. Thank you most of all, of course, to you for...
Okay, is it just the... Yeah, okay, we don't need to... Yeah. I think we can call it a day.
Brilliant. I mean, I enjoyed Zara, and you know what? It was really cathartic. It was really cathartic, ripping the shit out of Helen Whately and
Patrick McFadden.
Yeah, because those fucking demons deserved the good
not
ones
just that,
over.
Patrick Bosco McFadden.
Bosco, yeah, it's indeed Patrick Bosco McFadden.
Normal, very normal name for a very normal man on a very normal island. I think we can all agree.
The most normal, the most normalist.
Yeah.
Anyway.
No way, Sven Abel, you also grew up on Druid's Heath. Jesus Christ. Contact me. Maybe we know each other.
Have a bev.
Yeah, exactly, definitely. And I don't live that far away now anyway. It's only it's a reasonable walking distance. Anyway. Not to dox myself too much, of course. Yeah, and everyone go and if you can, give money to the Druid's Heath anti-gentrification
I
legal
will.
fund.
Yeah, please fund them. I'm not going to do my usual shill. Please go and give to that. But you should
Indeed.
also follow Kevin Logan, though. That's what
You
do.
should also go and follow No Justice of the MTGs.
You
It's,
do.
I can't even do the Marjorie Taylor Greene bit now that she's a communist. It's not even funny.
True, true. She's joined us on the red side of history.
Exactly, yeah. Katie Marshall / Mad Cat Scotty Eye is going, so I'm going to send everyone there.
No worries. I'm going to send Twitchers over to Rhizome. And YouTube viewers, I send you all over into Left at Box.
Nice.
And as always, Free Palestine.
Hang on, I can't find my fucking thing. Sorry, yeah, Free Palestine. See you later.
Goodbye, everyone. Bye-bye.
I'm still here for a second because I've got to do the 10-second thing, but you get the idea. If I just wave for 10 seconds, is that content? I don't think so. Anyway, no pass around.